Good morning, Chairman. We're now live.
Good morning and welcome everyone present in the Chamber and those listening online to the business of the Growth Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Sam French and I am Chairman of this committee. Councillor Reuben Robinson, Vice Chairman, is also present. The audio-visual feed of this public meeting is being broadcast live via the County Council's website. All comments to be raised today will remain accessible online. There's no fire drill planned for this morning, so in the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave the chamber, exit the building through reception and assemble in the front car park. Please have any mobiles, laptops and iPads on silent mode. The hearing loop is now activated. Requests to speak will be collated by the Vice Chairman, and I will ensure that everyone has the opportunity to ask questions and make contributions. I ask that you indicate early when you wish to speak. On to item 1. Apologies for absence and replacement members. Andrew, do we have any apologies?
No, we have no apologies because all members are here and present today. Thank you.
Thank you. On to item 2, declaration of members' interests. Do members have any declarations to declare? No. On to item 3, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 9th of December 2025. This item is to approve and sign the minutes of the last meeting as a correct record. Please turn to pages 5 to 15 of the agenda pack. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dyer, thank you.
No, Chairman, I just wish to make an amendment, please, to the minutes. There's an error within point 41, and I quote towards the end of point 41, on a point of information regarding executive portfolios, and if there was any expected change for corporate property scrutiny, the Deputy Leader confirmed no change to the scrutiny routine for property matters and stated that existing arrangements would continue until further notice. That isn't correctly minuted. Councillor Gibson said at the last Growth Scrutiny Committee, and I quote, "This will be the arrangement until the end of this term, no change planned." I'd just like, for clarity on the record, Councillor Gibson didn't say that there was no change until further notice. He said there was no change until the end of this term. Could that be corrected, please?
I'm happy to accept that as a correction. Thank you to Councillor Dyer.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I don't know if I'm at the right point in the meeting, but I understand, my first question is, I understand there are some people who wish to speak at the meeting who are not on the committee. I'd like to know how you intend to deal with that situation. And secondly, can I ask if there are any whipping arrangements of any group in place this morning?
We're just on the minutes item at the minute. I think there's members who wish to speak on the budget item, and I'm not sure what you mean about whipping arrangements. I'm not sure of anything to do with that.
Well, has any group agreed before the meeting to vote as a group?
I don't know. That's as much information as I have. Okay. We'll take a vote on the minutes now. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, I'll propose the minutes as amended, and can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Dyer, thank you. And those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? It's carried. Thank you very much. On to item 4, announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillors and Lead Officers. No announcements from me today. Executive Council announcements. Are there announcements from Liam Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I would like to remind everybody of the significance of today. Not only the Scrutiny Committee meeting, very important, but also today is National Holocaust Memorial Day. And it is today in 1945 that Auschwitz-Birkenau was liberated. And today is a memorial day to remember the 6 million odd Jews that were murdered as a result of the Nazi regime during World War II, along with all those other groups, the Gypsies and also Russian and Polish prisoners of war. So today is a significant day, and it's a day that we must all remember so that we don't make the same mistakes again going forward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on, I will keep my opening remarks short and brief because I think it's going to be a busy meeting this morning with plenty of discussions. So just a quick whistle-stop tour over some of the activities that we've done over the last quarter. We visited Micron Clean Louth site before Christmas. They are another example of a business which has automated successfully, and the technology that they use has enabled them to grow into the Indian market. We have taken steps to link them into other manufacturing businesses, to learn from others and to demonstrate their technology to their counterparts across the manufacturing sector. We have a lot of businesses who fit this description, effective and delivering jobs in our rural communities. If members have examples in their own electoral divisions and would like us to see how we can help with their growth ambitions, then please do let me know. We met with the Federation of Small Businesses last week. It is always valuable to listen to the needs and opportunities of our small businesses. The FSB continues to explore how they could win more public contracts, and we had a helpful debate about the Lincolnshire First approach, and we'll be using the FSB's input to shape that work. The FSB are also coordinating a local skills improvement plan, and LCC will be providing a significant response to that survey, highlighting the employment and skills needs that the local businesses tell us about. We also visited Dyson Farming and met with Daniel Cross and his senior leadership team, and were provided with an excellent insight into their business, the benefits of anaerobic digestion, their focus on research and development, and the growing emerging impacts, which I was unaware of, to be honest, of what the weight loss injections, etc., are having on our farming community. Obviously, with these weight loss injections, it's having a reduction in the carbs that they're intaking, which impacts on the amount of potatoes and wheat, etc., that gets grown. So that is having a detrimental impact of approximately 10% on the agricultural field. With that, though, it also creates opportunities for other businesses to look at other type of crops that grow to support a more healthy, balanced diet. So where it dips in one end, it creates opportunities for another. So we're helping to support businesses with that as well. And in regards to veterans, we continue to support the Combined Authority in their approach to veterans affairs and also into veterans villages. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Do the senior officers have any announcements to make? No? Okay, moving on to the main agenda, and item 5, budget scrutiny, revenue and capital budget proposals for 2026 and 27. The scrutiny report can be found on pages 17 to 24 of the agenda pack. The report invites the committee to comment on the budget proposals for the next financial year, 26-27, specifically looking at the budget implications for growth, commercial and corporate property services, prior to a decision by the Executive on the 3rd of February 2026. As per the actions required, the views of the committee will be reported to the Executive as part of its consideration of this item. The report will be presented by Andrew McLean, Interim Executive Director for Resources. Before we move on to the presentation, I would like to share with members that yesterday I received a written submission from Councillor Tim Harrison of Grantham, St Wolfram's Ward of South Kesteven District Council, providing factual information in relation to item 5, budget proposals 26-27. Specifically, the proposed removal of a Grantham High Street Highway Improvement Scheme. Members are advised that the points raised in that email will be taken into account and reflected as appropriate in the comments that this committee will draft and submit to the Executive for consideration. Now over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of information, Chairman, on Councillor Harrison's email that he sent yesterday. I know he sent it to me. He only sent it to yourself, the Vice Chairman, and then just opposition members. Has his email been circulated with all members of the committee as well? Have they had sight of that contribution? Thank you.
Apologies, Councillor Dyer, due to the quite soon hour in terms of the committee, in terms of deadline. I do sincerely apologise. I'll distribute it across to all members following this meeting for their information and awareness as well. I apologise.
Chairman, thank you for that. I just think, given the comments that have been raised by Councillor Harrison, would it be right that they're circulated with all members of the committee and we adjourn just on the basis that they can review the comments from Councillor Harrison? I don't see how the committee can take it all into account if they haven't had a chance to see the email from Councillor Harrison.
Alternatively, Chairman, if we don't have time and you're not minded to call an adjournment, would you be minded to allow Mr Harrison to speak?
At this time, no. I don't think we need to adjourn.
So you agree then that in order for everybody to have access to the same information that some members have received, that it would be in the interest of transparency and democracy being done and being seen to be done, that Mr Harrison be given the opportunity to speak. And that's your discretion. That's not up to anyone else to put pressure on you. That's your discretion, Chair.
If you want me, I can read out the email if you really want me.
We'll read the email out now. Do we need printouts for anybody, or is reading fine? Okay, reading's fine.
Dear councillors and officers, I'm writing to provide factual information for the committee's consideration in relation to item 5, budget proposals 2026-27, specifically paragraph 3.6, which proposes a removal of Grantham High Street highway improvement, open bracket 2 million, close bracket. Members may find it helpful to note that the £2 million Grantham scheme formed part of the Grantham Street Works programme approved by LCC Executive in February 2024 as part of the Devolution Capital Programme. That programme was presented and understood by partners, including South West Stephen District Council, as a place-specific devolution benefit for Grantham, with resurfacing works intended to enable a later town centre/high street scheme. SKDC relied on that understanding in good faith, and correspondence between the then leaders of LCC and SKDC confirms an expectation that £2 million would continue to focus on Grantham. The current budget proposal removes that named Grantham High Street scheme entirely without a standalone report explaining the change, its authorisation, or the implications for Grantham and partner authorities. This concerns my residents great, as this is directly in my ward. It appears that there is a conflation of the two separate schemes. In governance terms, it is not one programme, it is functionally and decisively split. This is shown in the executive report, Feb 2024, with two components. Component 1 was, in effect, to sort the road network first, so the town centre wasn't doing the job of a bypass. That's not in dispute. Component 2 was, once the through traffic was dealt with, to make the high street a place people wanted to be. This was never meant to happen at the same time as Component 1, because the Southern Relief Road wasn't open, and you can't narrow town street roads whilst heavy traffic still uses them. It needed design work, consultation, and more importantly, timing, so everyone agreed, do this after when conditions are right. I believe most members of SKDC were sold the scheme that you would use the roadworks to unlock town centre improvements. If you do the unlocking but never open the door, the scheme is not complete. The roads were the enabler, the high street was the point, and it appears that that bit is now being cut. I appreciate that I'm not able to address the committee directly, but I ask that this information is taken into account when members are considering whether further clarity or reporting is required before the matter proceeds to the executive. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, on to Andrew McLean then.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this report forms part of the Council's consultation process on the proposed 26-27 budget framework and also supports the Executive in finalising its budget proposals for consideration by full Council next month. The report provides an overview of the proposed 26-27 revenue and capital budget implications relevant, set within the context of the Council's updated medium-term financial plan. It reflects the impact of the provisional local government finance settlement, recent funding reform announcements, and the outcomes of a review of the Council's cost base. Members will see that the proposal demonstrates a balanced budget across the medium term, whilst also highlighting key assumptions, risks and pressures, and the actions being taken to manage these. The report also sets out proposed revenue changes, savings and efficiencies, and capital programme adjustments. This report is presented to enable the committee to scrutinise the proposals, provide comments, to inform the executive of the budget framework. And I'll hand over to my colleague Pam Clipson to address any salient points.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Chair. So later this week, the Overview Scrutiny and Management Board will scrutinise the full budget proposal. The link to that budget proposal is included at the end of the report that you have in your packs today. Whilst each of the service-specific scrutiny committees consider the proposed changes relating to the services within the respective remits. The report in front of you forms part of the consultation process that Andrew McLean has just referred to. The budget proposal is structured around the strategic decisions being made. For example, proposals to invest in Castle, which I know has come up quite a few times, concerns the cultural asset and was therefore included in the Children's and Culture Scrutiny Committee. Should that proposal progress, the approach to maintaining that asset would then fall under the Growth Scrutiny Committee with responsibility for the property portfolio. The starting point for the budget was the Council's approved revenue spending plans from February 2025. The medium-term financial forecast at that point identified a deficit within 26-27, which triggered the comprehensive review of both the revenue and the capital position. The budget today proposes and reflects the outcome of that review for the services specifically covered for this scrutiny. As shown in the table on page 19, there is a 1.558 million increase arising from the cost pressures articulated in the document, alongside 2.2 million proposed income generation and savings. To ensure the capital programme remains within existing borrowing limits, it is proposed that capital schemes funded through alternative sources or those that have not progressed through the required decision-making processes are proposed to be removed from the programme at this point. I'll hand over to Justin to highlight any of the particular areas within the growth services. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. So I'll touch on both the revenue and the capital aspects of growth services activity. So in terms of revenue, we have a relatively small budget. It's around about 0.5% of the council's total net revenue budget. And it funds a range of activity relating to business, investment, employment skills, and some of our work around things like attracting funding. We lever round about 13 to 14 million pounds of funding in on that budget. And at this stage, we are proposing 3 savings, none of which should affect the overall delivery of those revenue services. So with the closure of the local enterprise partnership and the changes to the way that strategic economic development is delivered, there are some staff who will be moving across to the combined county authority, which takes away a financial pressure for us in terms of funding those posts. We are going to look to charge some of the activity that we would normally do to external grants, notably some of our inward investment work. So that work will continue. It will simply be charged to other activity. And we will also start the process of divesting of some properties which are predominantly community-led and which we believe the communities will be able to attract grants much more successfully and be able to embed their services better with them having responsibility for the properties. So in terms of the revenue funding, as I say, the proposals are such that I don't believe they will have a particular impact on service delivery. In terms of capital, you'll be aware that the paper discusses the withdrawal from the current programme of the Economic Investment Programme and of the Grantham Highway improvements. In terms of the Economic Investment Programme, we've been set a challenge really around trying to identify alternative ways of delivering those schemes. So we are currently seeking investment partnerships, and we are currently looking at slightly different designs, slightly different delivery models. One example I would flag up to you is the proposed Advanced Manufacturing Centre, where we have really been able to attract grant funding for the revenue aspects, and we are now exploring different locations for that centre, which may well mean that the capital is not required. So I will pause there, Councillor French. I think handing back to Pam or... Okay.
Thank you, officers. So we'll open up for a debate now. Councillor Robinson, do you see any questions? We've got...
Yeah, Councillor Baxter, please.
It's more of a point of order, Chair. I understand you've had a request to speak from the Chief Executive at South Kesteven District Council. Are you proposing to allow free speech?
I'm not proposing to stop free speech, but I would like this committee to be scrutinised by the members of the committee. So I don't think it's appropriate for her to speak at this time. Thank you.
So just to be clear, you have had a request from a chief executive of an authority who wants to speak about an issue that affects both the county and the district council. She is able to offer information about the subject, but you are refusing her access to speak.
I'm not refusing access to speak because, as Andrew will explain in a second, there are many opportunities to speak about this coming in the future. So,
thank you, Councillor Baxter, for your question. Regarding the cut in terms of participation in regards to the budget consultation, chief executives of Lincolnshire County District Councils received a letter dated 30th of December 2025 informing them that there would be a budget consultation meeting held on Friday the 30th of 2026 at 10:30 in Committee Room 1. In terms of that, it's also allowed participation via virtually in regards to allowing those interested individuals who are not involved, who are not county council employees or county council councillors to participate and produce comments in that aspect. And in regards to, it's up to the chairman in regards to whether or not he allows any additional comments from members outside this committee or members outside this council or this committee. Thank you.
Chair, is that consultation meeting a public meeting?
It is a public meeting, Councillor Baxter, yes.
Broadcast?
In Committee Room 1 is technical limitations, so there is an option to attend virtually, but it is open and available to all members of the public.
I'd like to say, Chair, that in my opinion, you are making a mistake by refusing both Mr. Harrison and Ms. Bradford to speak at this meeting. But I understand. Well, I think you're making a mistake. I think you should think again, and I think you should allow them to speak.
that's okay. Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Dyer.
You said that with such dread, Chairman. Chairman, I just think that they're both present in the chamber here today. It's your discretion. It was barely mentioned within the report. They've been good enough to come all the way from Grantham. I think it's only fair, and it's your discretion. It doesn't matter what officers tell you. It's your discretion. They're sat up there. Let them contribute, and let's hear what they have to say on this matter. I think it's unfair. And Chairman, if you say no, I kindly request that we just have a vote as a committee whether we allow them to speak. And I'm very happy to put my hand up and say that I'm happy for them to contribute.
Okay, let's go to a vote.
Yeah, Chairman, can we make that a recorded vote? And just to correct you on a point you made in your previous statement, visitors don't take part in the debate, in the scrutiny of this. They just give information that will be useful to members of the committee. So that's just updating you on something you inadvertently misled the committee there.
So we're going to vote on the recorded vote. I know you need 3 members. 3 members required. Okay, it'll be recorded. Thank you. And then we'll vote on allowing the speakers to take part. All in favour?
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I might just contribute a very small thing.
Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Dilks.
Oh, I can't speak.
Not at this time, please. You're not a member of the committee.
I appreciate I'm not a member of the committee, but I have been a councillor for over some 30 years, Chairman, and I just make the point, if I may...
Councillor Dilks, please, you're not a member of the committee. I mean no disrespect to you. I know you're very experienced.
But you believe in fair speech. Well, that's good.
So this is on to allowing in terms of participation by the two external guests.
Chairman, can I just clarify? It's not external guests. It's the Chief Executive of South Kesteven District Council and a local councillor from South Kesteven. I want that recorded.
Yes, that's fine. Okay. We'll go with Chairman, Vice Chairman, and then alphabetical. Councillor Sam French?
No.
Councillor Robinson?
No.
Councillor Rundell? Councillor Baxter? Yes. Councillor Bowles? Yes. Councillor Corey? Yes. Councillor Condell?
No.
Councillor Dyer? Yes. Councillor East? No. Councillor Hastings?
No.
Councillor Woodruff? So that motion fails. 7 votes against 4 in favour. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Baxter.
This is going into the debate. Is this the right time to... May I kick off the debate?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Right. I went to the Environment Scrutiny Committee fairly recently, before this agenda was published, and I said at that agenda that I thought that the budget report was very poor indeed, or words to that effect, and so did my colleagues. This is no better. This is a very badly written report. It does not present the information in a way that is understandable to the learned man, let alone the common man or woman. If you look at, for example, the final sentence of paragraph 2.17, it reads, "Therefore, whilst the saving is expected to be achieved, there is a residual risk if the energy rate for energy not yet purchased is done so at a higher rate than planned." Doesn't make English. How's anyone, even if they're an energy expert, how are they supposed to understand such a badly put together sentence? And that is reflected throughout the report. We've only got one table that shows us what's happening, so that's the way the report is written, and the badly presented information and the poor English and grammar within it. Another example is paragraph 4.1 that again doesn't make grammatical sense, but also the length of it is way too short. There is not sufficient information within this agenda for us to understand what we are being told. So I draw your attention to paragraph 2.14. We talk about renegotiated library leases following the expiry of historic peppercorn rent agreements. I'm not sure from that whether it's us that are charging the rents or our libraries are being charged the rents. I hadn't realised I hadn't realised I don't know how many libraries we don't own, but is this library leases that are being renegotiated because we are renting them, or the tenants are renting from us? And then it goes on.
Is that your question, Councillor Baxter?
No.
Okay.
Then it goes on to say, additional costs with forecasts to reduce once surplus assets have been disposed of. So in a paragraph about libraries, which surplus assets are we planning to dispose of in the future? We talk also, and then my main point, and this is where I want to propose an amendment, and I don't know if you want to treat that debate separately because it relates to the email that was read from Councillor Harrison. But in paragraph 3.6, we see the axe falling on 2 schemes. They are 2 separate issues. The second is for Grantham High Street, the second is the Economic Investment Fund budget, a programme of £20 million of investment for... So we're here for growth. We're all about growth and investment, encouraging the economy, let 1,000 flowers bloom across Lincolnshire of businesses. And it seems that the budget is basically shutting that down. So £20 million that would have been invested, we're not going to bother with that now. Let the free market do its own thing, and let's not bother with investment in these schemes that are outlined under 3.7. But the most important thing in this agenda, and the one that I would like to propose a formal recommendation on, is the Grantham High Street Highway improvement. I don't understand why that's down as a capital programme. I don't understand why it needs borrowing, because the arrangement that was understood clearly before the revolution, before you were elected, but it was a clear understanding of everyone involved that the money for the Grantham High Street works would be put to one side until the end of the Southern Relief Road, because we didn't want to dig up Grantham Town Centre again. So that money should have been kept somewhere safe. We appear to be being told that that money has been spent on other projects and it now needs to be reborrowed. I have tried, the SK Chief Executive has tried, other people have tried to get chapter and verse about how the High Street Fund money, that was part of the devolution deal, how that money was spent, how it was reported to the government who gave the money for that purpose in the first place. But it appears to me that that money has been taken away from the people of Grantham in some kind of switcheroo that means that Grantham will not get what it was promised as part of the devolution deal. Could somebody, preferably an officer or perhaps Councillor Kelly, please explain what on earth is going on with this fund, and may I please add a recommendation, as an additional recommendation to the recommendation of this report, which is to continue to include the Grantham High Street Works programme in the Council's capital programme for 26-27 at £2 million.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. I believe your recommendation will be added in the comments of the meeting when it's handed over
Chairman,
to Executive.
yes,
Right?
this is not a decision-making body, the Scrutiny Committee, so they can't make recommendations. The recommendations are already in the report, and it's about...
but his comments will be carried forward.
Their comments will be taken and gathered by scrutiny officers as part of the process. But it's really been asked to comment on the report to the Executive.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chair, I want to make I want to ask you, I want to make a formal recommendation. This body is able to make formal recommendations to the committee. If we want to vote on something, we can vote on something. And I'm asking that we vote to recommend to the Cabinet that that money is put back in the budget.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a second? Councillor Corey? I'll take that to a vote then.
I thought you might want to discuss the issue first, Chair.
We have a lot to we can do that vote at the end if you want and discuss it at the end if you... Yeah, okay. We've just got some more questions from others as well.
Does any officers want to answer some of the questions which were asked?
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, the scheme is proposed for being withdrawn. The agreement with government was that £4 million would be spent enhancing the economy of Grantham through highways measures. The funding that was spent on Dysart Road, Alma Park and the B1174 added up to a little more than £4 million, and it is therefore felt that the agreement with government and that £4 million has been reached.
Councillor Dyer, question please.
Chairman, I do have a few, but I know that the local member for Grantham West is here to speak on this matter, and I wonder whether it's pertinent, given what's just happened, that he go before me to head his thoughts as the local member.
Okay, would you like to go now or would you like to go at the end? For the vote. Yeah, okay, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Firstly, thank you for putting me in a slightly rueful position where I managed to avoid voting in support of Councillor Tim Harrison, but I unfortunately find myself having to support Councillor Baxter. Look, I entered politics many eons ago really for one ambition for my hometown, the town where I was born, was to build Grantham's bypass. Now, as colleagues from the Highways Department and previous county councillors and colleagues from SK will attest to, it has not been easy. But as we stand here today, the road is nearing completion. You can see it, you can touch it, you can feel it. It's brilliant. But as the Historic England report of many years ago notes, Grantham only works if we make the high street pedestrian friendly. If we continue to allow, Mr. Chairman, a dual carriageway, in essence, through the middle of the town, traffic will still use it, it won't work. Which is why 6-7 years ago, in the old Growth Point days, which is a phrase probably only Justin and I, and perhaps with respect Karen Bradford in the back will remember, was talked about, money was assigned. Last year's budget, there was £2 million in for Grantham High Street improvement. Now, like all high streets across the country and across Lincolnshire, and we've spoken, myself and the Chairman and the Vice Chairman this morning about places like Louth, town centres are struggling. And the one thing I think we can do as a local authority that makes a real impact is to remove vehicles and HGVs. Now, I'm not advocating full-scale pedestrianisation, but that narrowing of the streets, the widening of the pavements, everything that Councillor Harrison refers to in his email is indicative of what we need to do. So much so, plans were drawn up. Discussions were had at the Transport Group, which your administration have now abolished. So much so that we entered into near formal agreement with South Kesteven District Council about what would happen. In a rare moment of unity, councillors' offices from both authorities agreed. The best thing to do was when the bypass was open, that money was spent looking at that pinch point of the high street. Our constitution demands openness and transparency. And I have to say, I'm extremely disappointed, Mr. Chairman, to be told this morning that there have been no discussions with partners or local members, of which I'm one. Councillor Martin is the other, I believe, from a county council perspective, about the removal of this fund. And there's been certainly no conversations with South Kesteven District Council, despite their attempts to secure one. We've been told that this is a budget issue. We were told a few moments ago that this money is being pulled because we need the money back. Yesterday's budget papers make clear that is not the case. Yet at yesterday's Highways meeting, we were told these works had been done. We are conflating issues. This is a political issue, Mr. Chairman. Give me a second. It is not a budgetary one. And I would ask you, Councillor Kelly, please come to Grantham with me. I will shout you lunch and you see the problem we have on our high street, why this money is so important. And I would ask members of the committee, many of you know local towns, you understand the struggles they're in taking part on. You understand the problems local shopkeepers are having. You understand the difference we can make. Nobody else is going to fix this. We can. We've got the money. Don't turn against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for giving Councillor Davis that time and the extra time to speak. I do have a number of questions, but my first question I will... do you want to come first?
No, we'll just signal it for later. No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
get in here before I forget, that's all.
If we need one question at a time, if we can.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, so I'm going to keep it on topic with this one, but there are another couple that I'd like to come back to. Thank you, Vice Chairman. So, just following on from what Councillor Davis says, who has considered the impact that this is going to have? You know, bearing in mind that this, we actually, I feel, I agree with Councillor Davis, this is a political decision, not a budgetary one. So, who's been consulted? Explain the challenges that we hear about in the report, and who will suffer if Councillor Kelly and his political colleagues get their calculations wrong. These questions haven't been answered, but we're being expected to vote on this and make a recommendation to the executive when, as we've heard, we know what kind of negative impacts these are going to be on a town which is supposed to be growing and will be constricted in the middle, when that growth will be strangled at the very heart of the community. So why are we doing this? I've not heard an answer to that. And so at the moment, I'm minded that I can't support it until someone over there can give us a compelling reason why where we're being asked to make this decision, Chairman. Thank you. I want to come back on other matters.
Justin, do you want to go for that one, or Andrew McLean?
I suppose as Nigel has described, the scrutiny process and the following meetings are part of that consultation on impact. And so that's why we're having this debate today.
I will just reinforce that point as well. The executive have gone through their budgetary processes accordingly, and these scrutiny committees also form part of that process. So feedback will be acknowledged at the next executive meetings, etc. So we are still going through that process. However, like Councillor Baxter alluded to earlier, there has been a form of revolution. People have changed. You know, we need to ensure that we do get best value for money, and we are not held to the decision-making processes of the past either. We carve our own way going forward to ensure that we do the best we can for the council and for the council taxpayers. However, be rest assured that this is part of that overall process, and what you say in here will be taken into account. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer, if you could.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman. I do have a few questions, and first of all, I have
got
to say,
some people waiting, so if we do one and then
okay.
we'll
I mean, I've got about 20 on the
Yeah.
on the
do your
growth
most
budget.
important one.
Well, I'm going to ask the questions. This is what we're here for. And I have to say, looking at this report, and I'm not looking over there at the office, I'm looking at you, Councillor Kelly, on this. This is, in my time on the council, this budget for the growth services, it lacks aspiration, and it is the most unambitious budget for growth services that I've seen in my council, and my colleagues have said the same, and they've been on this council longer than me. The council's won its argument thanks to many, many years of lobbying for government funding, and what we're looking at in growth services now is cut after cut after cut in the budget. This isn't ambitious, and members of the administration are going out there saying they're supporting businesses. They want Lincolnshire businesses to thrive. This report is doing the direct opposite because of policy decisions of you and your administration. So my first question to you, what I'm most concerned about is the £20 million cut in the capital economic infrastructure projects that have been highlighted within an executive report in December 2024 and a recent paper that went to members after the elections. This £20 million investment was building on the success of the FES in Holbeach, where I'm sure you've been there, Councillor Kelly. That is a fantastic facility, and that's growing, and that's because this council made the decision to invest, borrow money, yes, but invest in the community in Holbeach, where the private sector weren't willing to. And that's the same in Eventus and other places across Lincolnshire. What we've been doing as a council, Councillor Kelly, is delivering real outcomes for businesses and people across Lincolnshire. And what we're seeing today, you're pulling the plug on that funding, and there's no clear plan from what's in the report to fill that plug. So my first question to you, Councillor Kelly, and this isn't to Justin, Item 3.7, it states, the Council is recommending the withdrawal of the Economic Investment Programme in order to pursue a different model for the facilitation of economic infrastructure, which would include different cost bases, grant support, and potentially shared investment with the commercial sector. So that's all well and good. And given that these reports have been in the public domain now since December 2024, Councillor Kelly, can you confirm, is Lincolnshire County Council in any serious discussion with any partner to deliver anything within the £20 million Economic Investment Fund? Yes or no?
Thank you, Councillor Dyer.
It is not straightforward as a yes or no, Councillor Dyer, because we are at the beginning of that journey in regards to those discussions. The discussions that have been going, I will refer to the officers and Justin and his team. However, what I will remind you is that this is for the budget of 26-27. This isn't for the longer term. So for 26-27, there is pain, because of the impacts of the previous regimes. We are looking at next year and the year ahead potentially having surpluses, which will then give the council a position where we are able to afford a capital investment programme, an economic investment programme, without having to burden capital loans on the council taxpayer. Previous regimes, previous capital investment programmes have resulted in the council taxpayer bearing those long-term costs and losses. For example, like you rightly said, the Aventus Business Centre. That Aventus Business Centre, yes, it creates jobs and opportunities for the residents there. However, it continues to burden the council taxpayer with losses because the business centre is not washing its face. We're not interested in it making a profit, but it should wash its face. So we are going through a regime of cost control so we can identify areas of efficiencies there so that we reduce the burden on the council taxpayer. Also, the same at the FES. The FES is a absolutely fantastic business centre, and it supports Lincoln University. They're doing fantastic future-proofing works for food and agriculture, etc. However, it is under-occupied. We are not optimising these business centres. So to justify capital loans going forward to support a further economical investment programme when we are still burdened with losses from previous economic investment programmes does not make sense. At this position in time, we are not in a position where we can go forward and put the burden of more capital loans onto the council taxpayer. We have to make what has gone on in the past work first before we further place loans onto the council taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just
one supplementary, please.
Just that as of 8:54 yesterday morning, to quote, no, we are not in any serious discussion with a partner at this stage. So the answer to your question there, Councillor Kelly, is no. These sorts of projects, I know this from the scheme in Holbeach, in Horncastle, the industrial estate expansion there, these aren't something you can click your fingers and they're built overnight. They take many, many years of work, and switching it off now will mean that it's delayed much further along the time frame. So we're just moving on, Councillor Kelly.
We've got other people waiting, Councillor Dowd, so if you can come back, please.
It's relevant to this. So there was a report submitted to the Executive in December 2024, as I've said, and it set out a capital investment plan for economic infrastructure for 2025-30, as I've just said. The scheme was expected to create circa 3,000 good quality jobs in Lincolnshire. So are you able to confirm, and that was by 2030, Councillor Kelly, when these were going to be put into practice, are you able to confirm if any of the schemes will be delivered before 2030? Yes or no?
I can't give you the detail of that at this moment in time. However, I could refer to the team behind me as they may have more accurate information on those statistics that you say.
I'm asking you, Councillor Kelly, because you're the one that said you've gone through the budget and you're putting it to the council. I don't think it's fair putting that to officers.
Then the answer is no, not at this time.
Chairman, I have more. I will be respectful. I've got a long list of growth and I've got a list for property as well. If you're not going to miss that.
Let's get back to you, that's okay. Yeah, we'll come back to you. Thank you. Councillor Condell, please.
So I'd like to thank Councillor Kelly for clarifying some of the details in that Economic Investment Fund budget. I still am concerned that it is being withdrawn, and I'd like the committee or you to review it all again to ensure that we are taking the right steps in withdrawing that fund and not causing growth to collapse by doing that.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Okay, Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly mentioned the Aventus Centre, which is in my ward, and about charges on it, but that's in the exempt papers. Are we talking about the exempt papers now? okay, or it's a strange thing to say about, I think you've just said in the public domain that we're looking to review the prices at the Aventus Centre.
Councillor Baxter, that information we discussed previously, so the information that was shared there is open already. I haven't gone into detail as to what's contained in the pink papers, so the information already provided is in the public domain, and indeed was in the press quite a few months ago.
Okay, so on the specific of Aventus, I'd say that I'm not sure how much you perceive it's losing, but I can tell you that in terms of economic development, it is a powerhouse of incubating businesses. It's doing exactly what it was supposed to do. Zazzle Media, for example, is now turning over millions and has got its own premises and has moved on, allowing other small businesses to use Aventus. Wills and Probate Limited were, I believe, in Aventus and are now somewhere else in there. So it's doing everything it was supposed to do. So I think, is the pain worth the gain? I'd say, yeah, yes, it is. We're not just here to get the streetlights working and fill the potholes. We are here to build a better Lincolnshire, and that's a price worth paying. Not just for Aventus, that's a bit parochial, but generally. And that's why, really, we should think carefully before we withdraw the entirety of the Economic Investment Fund. Coming back to two things. One is, I didn't get any answers to my previous questions about what's going on with the library leases and what surplus assets are being disposed of in 2027-28. And also, I want to come back on what Mr. Brown has said. He said that £4 million was spent on street works in Grantham. I don't recognise that. I would like to see the accurate data for that. And even if it is true, they were works that were in the capital programme. Dysart Road was like a cart track and has been put back together again. That's basic maintenance of roads. That is not a growth project. The money, and I think carefully before I say it, but it seems to me that this is an attempt by the County Council to steal £2 million from the people of Grantham, and that's not good enough.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. I tried to help you earlier with your questions by asking you, is that your question? And you said no, but if officers would like to answer those questions now. Yeah, Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Baxter, I'll just come back to you on Aventus. Yes, you're right. It is a fantastic facility and it supports excellent businesses there. But put aside the costs to the actual businesses, we're looking at the cost of sale. We're looking at the cost base that is in our control. We are trying to make efficiencies there in order so that those premises wash their faces. Other business centres that are at 50% occupancy, and so to speak, we need to do more on the communications and the media campaign in order to get those places filled with businesses and look at our strategy for those business centres. Yes, we have great businesses in there and we want to help them grow and also entice others into those business centres, but we need to do it with more commercial acumen, and we need to do it so that we have better control and we reduce the impacts of finances to the council taxpayer, while still providing fantastic facilities for Lincolnshire businesses to grow and occupy those premises.
So on the one hand, you want businesses to move in and you're at 50% occupancy, but on the other, you seem to be saying that the prices of taking a tenancy are going up.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, every year when you do your mobile phone bill, or every year when you look at your electricity provider, do you shop around and do you look for a better price? I imagine you do. That is the same thing that we are applying here, because funnily enough, those practices haven't gone on for such a long period of time, and we need to be more efficient in the use and expenditure of council taxpayers' money. For instance, some of the lease arrangements we have with some business centres. You know, we have long-term lease arrangements on properties that we are tied into on the costs of repairs to certain other infrastructure located nearby. where there's been no real review of the liabilities associated with those long-term leases. And those long-term leases have financial impacts on the council taxpayer. So it's fundamental that we scrutinise everything and all expenditure to ensure we are maximising, limiting the liabilities to the council taxpayer, whilst also providing the opportunities in the business centres we have for those businesses to grow and for others to come in. It's about being better savvy with the money that we've got.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I think that sums that up. Do we have another speaker?
Thank you. Councillor Corey, did you want to say your bit? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I do have a number of questions. This is a debate, so I'm letting you know up front. So I'm sorry, Councillor Kelly, but I don't think you've realised that this is a council, not a business. And I haven't finished. And our tenants, their businesses and their employees are council taxpayers. So, I have a number of matters to put to you. I'm going to go back to Councillor Baxter's point on 2.14, libraries. You talked about, Councillor Kelly. Sorry, yeah, no. But in here, Councillor, thank you, put me off my stride now. Sorry. I'm old, stop it. God.
Go on, go for it.
Jesus.
Go on.
So, blaspheming. So, Councillor Baxter mentioned libraries, but has an impact assessment been conducted? Because Councillor Kelly, you talked about scrutiny and that we've got to have an in-depth scrutiny about all the things that our decisions will impact on. But has an assessment been conducted to understand how this may affect all those people in our communities at risk of social isolation and low literacy? And does this have support of culture services? This is, as we've heard before, this paper is very thin on detail. And if you've got to come here, Councillor Kelly, and keep backing up the lack of detail, you must accept that this is not a good paper.
Thank you. Has an impact assessment been done? We've got some people waiting, so we'll come back to you.
No. Otherwise, this is going to go on for hours. So, but that just...
No. We'll answer that question, please, Andrew McLean, and we'll come back to you.
Thank you. So just on, I think, because the question on the library has been brought up a couple of times, so just to bring that back. So this is purely around the lease of the building. So
sorry, can I interject? I need to make a conflict of interest as a owner of a property in Boston that the library currently rents off me. I don't think I should be party to the conversation.
Okay.
So I'll leave the chamber until libraries, if libraries are being discussed.
Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, you can carry on because it was Alistair waiting.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that, Mr. McLean. On page 22, paragraph 2.9, this is quite a shocking and very disappointing thing to read. This, and I note Justin's comment about volunteers, but I respectfully don't agree. Sorry, Mr. Brown. But this lays bare a staggering lack of ambition, I'll back up Councillor Dyer's point, for Mablethorpe and Long Sutton, and demonstrates, I'm sorry to say, that this administration doesn't care about our people on the coast. So they're my 2 points, and I'd like some response to those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corey. Justin.
So obviously, technical...
Sorry.
It's obviously a technical rather than political comment, but I guess when the properties on the coast were developed, which was about 2000, 2001, something like that, there was a need for a strong anchor tenant, which was at the time the county council. What we've seen with levelling up funding, and as we've discussed in this room before, is that the funding for community-related activity is extremely difficult for county councils to attract. And the current Pride in Place programme, as an example, provides a stronger opportunity for community activity. So our intention is to work with those community settings to enable them to be in the best position to attract that funding. And the objective is about maintaining and hopefully improving those community services by enabling them to attract the funding that we cannot.
And Councillor Corey, in regards to your comment regarding we are not a business, we are a local authority, 100% correct, and I fully agree with you on that. However, there are excellent practices within the private sector that are highly recommended to local authorities and indeed to government. Greater efficiency, cost control, accountability. With those three principles and fundamentals, we're able to do far more with less, and we are able to spend wisely on other things that we may not have done. We are going through a journey, and we will continue on that journey to ensure that the council taxpayer gets more for the money they pay, and we continue to deliver services. And as you know, we are going to be facing difficult times coming forward, as we have done with the recent rises in national insurance employer contributions, etc. However, under your regime, the majority of revenue that was coming into this county was going out of the county in other companies and the supply base. Under our regime, we will be looking at promoting, such as the FSB and the Chamber of Commerce, etc., to ensure that we maximise all those small businesses and suppliers in Lincolnshire to ensure that we maintain the revenue that comes into this county and it stays here benefiting Lincolnshire, hence why the Lincolnshire First approach. So yes, we're not a business, we're a local authority, but we will be following some of the key principles and mantras of the private sector to ensure that we get the maximum best possible outcome for the council taxpayers going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Dwyer, please.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Oh,
sorry.
Do you want to add to that point?
At the point that our colleague left the room, Mr. McLean was about to say something, and I was hanging on his word, and I never got to hear it.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off there. Fair enough.
I'll come back in on that. Thank you, Councillor Baxter. So picking up on the earlier question, the leases in respect of the libraries are properties that we don't own and we lease as a county council. Previously, they were on a peppercorn rent basis that is due to come to an end. Hence the budget pressure that's put there going forward. The rents have been analysed as a market rate within the area. This isn't about, from a impact assessment, there's no plans around closing the library or anything like that. We do work closely with the culture service as part of those discussions, but it's not around there not being a library or places for residents to go. This is purely around the continuing that provision in that existing setup.
Thank you.
And Chair, in the same paragraph, for the third time, can I ask, what surplus assets are being disposed of?
Yeah. So this goes back to the paper we brought to scrutiny last year. I think it was around September time, around the property rationalisation programme, where we set out a number of properties over the coming years, where we looked to carrying out a review where some of those would look to be disposed of. So it's linked to that, and that's where we've agreed that as part of the progress monitoring of that programme that we brought into this scrutiny committee throughout that period to provide an update and report on the progress of that from those properties being rationalised.
Sorry, can I at least ask what are the key ones? I mean, are we selling this building? Are we selling any libraries? What's top of the list? What's the one that we're going to make most money out of?
The list was provided to the scrutiny committee at the time. Don't have the exact information off the top of my head to say exactly what the top one was, but that information was presented and is available, and we'll be coming back to this committee for progress and update on that.
Yeah, we definitely had the rationalisation report a few months ago, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry, that was a genuine mistake there. Councillor Baxter. Councillor Dyer.
Thank you again, Chairman. Councillor Kelly, you keep mentioning the FSB working with stakeholders and Team Lincolnshire, like your predecessor didn't do that. And it's this council and the economic spokesman has worked with stakeholders such as the FSB for years and years and years and years, dare I say, since before I was born. So please don't think that just because you're meeting with the FSB, this didn't happen before. This is just a continuation of what's been done previously. I'm sure you're putting your own charm on it, though, Councillor Kelly. But just moving on, Councillor Kelly, and again, just rewinding back to the start of this report almost an hour ago, this budget report is terrible. So much so, I had to email the finance team just to ask for a breakdown in the budgets for the individual teams within growth. So just for the committee's benefits, I appreciate you're probably not all as boring as I am, perhaps, to email the accountancy team to ask for these stats. First of all, there's a £50,000 reduction from the economic development team. There is a £10,000 budget reduction from the economic infrastructure team. And there is a £50,000 reduction from the infrastructure investment team. Now, Justin, in his remarks, mentioned why there's a budget reduction within the LEP budget. That makes sense, that's fair enough. But I'm not satisfied, Councillor Kelly, why the budget is being reduced by £110,000 in those three teams. So line by line, could you please provide to committee for £50,000 what is being cut in economic development, £10,000 what is being cut in economic infrastructure, and £50,000 what is being cut from infrastructure investment. I'm sure you've gone through the budget line by line, Councillor Kelly, so you'll be able to provide a detailed response now to committee. Thank you.
Councillor Dyer, you by far boring, so please, be rest assured you are not boring.
You charmer.
And in regards to the activities of the previous regime, obviously, we're always on a journey of continual improvement, and that is the journey that we will continue to go on. In regards to the fine detail of those three cost lines, I will refer to Justin and the team behind to go into those in detail. We have discussed them, but I just don't have them in front of me at this moment in time.
Thank you. So 50,000 for economic development is a grant contribution towards attendance at the UK Reef investment event. As I said at the start, that will still happen, the outcomes will be the same. It's simply that the funding can be found from a different source. £10,000 in economic investment is a reduction in business rating expenditure on the community projects that we spoke about a moment ago with Councillor Corey. And £50,000 in infrastructure investment relates to the development of some lobbying cases which the combined authority have a stronger route into government, still making the case. So instead of us needing to commission work, that work is being carried out by a separate organisation with our input through our sort of knowledge and our existing data, as opposed to commissioning something else.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Justin, for that. I just in respect to UK Reef, the budget there, you said from an alternative source. Could you provide to committee what that source is? And just coming on to the infrastructure investment case, obviously, how this was done previously, I appreciate it's different now. We have a mayoral combined authority. And I take the point that you make, Justin, but what if, and I appreciate it's the same political colour at the moment, but what if Councillor Kelly, as this council's economic lead, had a differing view from the mayoral authority and wanted to have his own lobbying case? If this council's view was different to the mayoral's position, we haven't got a budget for that. So we're very much reliant now on the mayor agreeing with Councillor Kelly. So what budget is there if there were to be a disagreement with the two individuals?
So the budget for UK Reef is coming out of the reserves of the closure of the Local Enterprise Partnership, and the total budget within infrastructure investment is about £1.3 million. So whilst we are recommending a small reduction in the budget, there is still a substantial budget there that we will be using to collect data, etc. Clearly, little point at the moment in collecting data that is already being collected elsewhere by an organisation that we are a member of.
Thank you for that. And just moving on now, you're pleased to know. Just looking at the report, Chairman, it's been spoken about a lot about the economic infrastructure cuts, the £20 million cuts, and I think Councillor Corey mentioned impact assessment. Again, this is just 2 lines in the budget. We appreciate you've added some meat to that, but there's still not that much. Before this decision is made, can I formally request that an impact assessment is brought to this committee on this decision? Because at the moment, it's all about a lot of whataboutery, and I'm not quite satisfied with the responses that you provided, Councillor Kelly, and I've got significant concerns that actually these £20 million projects are going to fall on their face. And I will ask, Justin, I kindly emailed you whenever it was last week, and you provided a report that I think it has been in the public domain, not the executive report, but it is the Economic Investment Programme report. I really think that for committee, Councillor Condell's made a comment, I think before committee vote on this today, I think it is worthwhile that this document is circulated to the committee. If that can be done whilst I'm speaking, just so they can see that, and perhaps we can have an adjournment just so they can read this report and the impact of the decision and the cut to the £20 million fund, because the report is 3 pages long, and I can speak, but I'm not going to read all of that out. So I kindly request, Chairman, that we have an adjournment on that. But before you try and shoot me down on that, 2.6 states, the gross revenue budget is broadly sufficient to meet our service commitments, although reductions in service delivery lines have been made to meet the Council's budget requirement. The tightening of budget means that there is likely to be less opportunity to respond to new opportunities or priorities. Please, Councillor Kelly or the Growth team, can you highlight how exactly LCC will have less opportunities to respond to its priorities?
So, essentially, part of pursuing grant support means that you need to carry out the actions that are in accordance with the grant body. So therefore, by using grant support, particularly for some of that investment work, there is therefore a need for us to comply with that grant, and therefore the time that you might otherwise have for somebody to be working flexibly has to be spent specifically on that activity. So that's the sort of the main purpose of those sentences. I suppose in terms of investment, the risk of pursuing that particular grant is that if a significant investor wished to move into the county and we needed to provide support to them, then we would need to reprioritise work and perhaps do something we weren't planning to do. I suspect that would be some of our campaigning work that we would probably need to step back on a little bit in order to support that investor. So it's a question of moving money around, but it is largely that if you have individual and activity which is pegged to a particular grant, then you simply become a little less flexible.
I'm quite astonished, Chairman, that we've just had reported, and this has been recommended by the administration and Councillor Kelly, that the Council, rewinding a little bit further back, we're going to try and be more reliant on grants and funding from outside agencies, but we're going to be potentially cutting the budget to manage that. And then from what Justin's just mentioned, if a large investor wants to come to the County Council's growth team have got to reprioritise workloads so they can try and attract an investor to the county. I mean, that's what I read. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's outrageous, that you're stripping back the team to its bare bones, Councillor Kelly, that they can't even act to support large businesses coming to the county. You can harp on about what you do, you know, who you meet in the FSB and Team Lincolnshire, etc. That's great. But when it comes to actually bringing large businesses into the county, you're slashing the budget and you're taking the firepower away from your team. It's ridiculous. And you're saying one thing at committee, Councillor Kelly, and you're doing exactly the opposite in your budget. And I think it's really disappointing. But anyway, moving on, and you can respond on that once I've finished, I'm sure.
Do you want to just respond now?
No,
yes,
go for it.
Yeah, respond now.
Councillor Dyer, I'll just respond. I'm not surprised that is the approach that you will take. We will be operating smarter. We encourage external businesses to explore and look at coming into Lincolnshire, and we fully support it. At the moment, we're currently engaged with with an international organisation, and hopefully something will come to fruition with that. However, we will continue to utilise our resources and maximise our resources in order to meet the requirements of the growth opportunities, etc., that are presented to the council. We will still remain a level of flexibility in order to achieve that, because flexibility within a system is fundamental. We may not, we are reducing the capital loans, we are reducing the capital loans, etc., onto the council taxpayer, and there are some, as has been highlighted already, there are some small reductions elsewhere, but that will not impact on capability in order to be able to achieve these aims with businesses that are looking to explore and invest in Lincolnshire.
Thank you, Chairman. But I don't think that's true. And again, the executive have had a more detailed report than this committee. Borrowing's going up at Lincolnshire County Council. It's not going down. But you talk about being able to respond to businesses wanting to come to Lincolnshire. I know years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, one of the economic investment team, the whole reason a business came to Lincolnshire is because she messaged them on LinkedIn and she formed a relationship. Businesses, yes, Lincolnshire's a great place to invest in, Councillor Kelly, but they're not all queuing up, waiting to, and coming to the council. It takes hard work by people, often going out on a limb on LinkedIn, messaging them, contacting them, going to events. Again, I just think you've just shown your naivety in what you've just said. But 2.7, within the report, there is currently no provision for significant proactive upgrades to the portfolio. I'm assuming you're talking about the economic infrastructure portfolio. So if a problem were to occur, then they would have to request the council's corporate contingency. I assume that would be corporate property. We know how fast they can be at responding to problems. So can you please provide an example of what sort of failure in one of its business centres LCC will struggle to respond to? What can you provide an example, please?
First off, let me go back and deal with your issue of naivety. We are not adopting, and we are indeed not naive when it comes to business and when it comes to commerce and when it comes to marketing, etc. And we will continue to proactively engage and go out there and seek national and international investors into Lincolnshire. And we will also adopt a more unified approach and use those other force multipliers, i.e. the mayoral authority, etc., to achieve those goals. We will continue to engage with those stakeholders. No ifs, no buts. Those activities will continue. The naivety, I must add, is in the previous regime's failure to scrutinise detailed, granular detail levels of expenditure. Because if you did do that, we wouldn't be in the position we are now, and why we are having to take the actions we are now.
It's responding to problems if they were to arise.
If problems arise, we will continue to deal with those issues. But what we are also looking to do going forward, and we've had discussions in regards to the business centres, for instance, under previous regimes and indeed in other local authorities, you don't have things such as sinking funds, making a provision for items that have that may cost £80,000, etc. So you don't make provisions for those items. But going forward, we will look to make those certain provisions, etc., so we can deal with those events, those problems when they occur. So that's thinking smarter, and that's operating smarter, and that's looking at commercial aspects of business to enhance local authority expenditure.
Thank you. Could one of the officers answer my question, please? I asked for an example of something that we'd have to go with a begging bowl to corporate property with. Thank you.
So we had a failure of a rooftop gully on the business centre in Market Deeping. It required scaffolding. It was leaking down into the roof, into the wall voids, etc. And therefore, working together, we tackled that one, and the building is now repaired. So they're normal wear and tear type activities that happen in buildings as they get older, and we work very closely with Marie and her team to look at a schedule around that, and we'll talk a bit about sinking funds in paper 10 later.
Just on that, and I remember many years ago, I spoke to, I don't know what their job role was, but they no longer work at the council. One of their criticisms were with the business centres being independent, as it were, having their own budgets to maintain the facilities, rather than having to go through corporate property. That one of this person's arguments were, and I bought it, is that they are not just part of the council. They're front-facing. They're delivering a service to businesses, and those businesses, it's their livelihoods, isn't it? And I suppose my question to you would be, Justin, based on the Councillor Kelly, based on the philosophy of how I know those centres work, they're keen to get issues resolved straight away, so the tenants have minimum impact. But then, obviously, LCC doesn't quite work like that. So would there be a differential within timescale, Justin? Let's say if that were to happen again at Eventus, how quick would it be under the old regime to get that replaced? And how quick would it be under the new regime to get that resolved?
So, conscious I'm sitting next to Andrew and Marie, we are working through ensuring that we respond very quickly to enquiries. I appreciate the comparison you're looking to draw. The comparison is very much one between us having some of those times when we had to operate slightly differently, as you described with the person who's no longer at the council, but increasingly what we're trying to do is to ensure that there is one service which provides an immediate solution to problems that need to be addressed immediately. We continue to work on that.
I'm sure we could maybe have a performance indicator.
Councillor Dyer, we're running a bit ahead of time, so if we can wrap up really quickly.
I've just got a couple more. Please, I'm almost finished on growth, then we can move on to property, Chairman. Just in respect, Justin, one of your comments that you made within your remarks, I wasn't going to comment on this because Councillor Corey did. You mentioned about divesting of some of the community spaces. My problem is it's just in your phraseology, Justin. You mentioned we're going to start with these properties. My question is to you, what's next? What is going to be next on the chopping block of the administration? What next do you want to get rid of? You've got these two, so what will be next? And I'm just going to draw my comments to a close on growth. We need to be proactive, Councillor Kelly, as you said. You going out there, I get that, and if that's your philosophy, that's great, and we all agree with you. Being proactive, getting businesses to come to the county, that's great, but you're slashing the budget to do that. That's the argument I'm trying to make here today. Scrutiny, you talk about scrutiny, well, hopefully you're proving that we can scrutinise when we're actually given the papers to do so. And I just would like to ask again, Chairman, that the report that Mr Brown sent to me last week is sent to this committee, circulated, the 3 pages of A4. We have an adjournment so that the committee can review that report. And I just go back, can I formally request that before this decision is made, an impact assessment is put to committee for scrutiny on both the impact of the cut of the £20 million, but also, Chairman, the £2 million Grantham scheme, so that we can actually see the full impact of these decisions, because quite frankly, despite your willingness and your generosity, Chairman, for letting me go on, I still don't think it's good enough. So can we have those 2 requests, Chairman? I'm formally asking.
I'm happy to second.
Second, okay. Yeah, thank you for those comments, Councillor Dyer. I think as a member of this committee, Councillor Dyer, when you get information, you are welcome to share it with the committee beforehand. That is within your gift, essentially, and I don't think we've got time to adjourn and circulate that now. I think that the onus is on you, really, to do that beforehand. If you've got information you think is vital for the committee, then the onus is on you. And then, okay, so Councillor Baxter is seconding, and we'll go to the vote on that proposal.
Sorry, which one are we voting on, Chairman? Sorry.
The second proposal, the impact report.
Could I ask for a recorded vote, please?
Yeah, yeah, that's enough hands. Okay, all in. I'll have to wait.
So this is the vote on to have a request in terms of an impact assessment on the economic investment programme of the 20 million and the £2 million Grantham High Street scheme. I'll do similar before, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and then alphabetical. Councillor Rundo has left the room as well. So Councillor Sam French.
No.
Councillor Reuben Robinson.
No.
Councillor Baxter. Yes. Councillor Bowles. Yes. Councillor Corey. Yes. Councillor Condell.
No.
Councillor Dyer. Councillor East. Councillor Hastings.
No.
Councillor Woodruff. That is 6 votes against, 4 votes in favour. The motion fails.
Thank you. Councillor Corey, did you have more input for the debate? We need to wrap this debate up now, so if we can make things short.
Bit of a point of order. I did have a proposal.
It's coming, don't worry. I've not
well,
forgotten.
No, I just might save some time. Although I'm massively disappointed that the portfolio holder for highways has just voted against looking at the impact of the highway scheme. Oh, sorry, who is the portfolio holder for highways? That's going to the full council. Oh, I do beg your pardon. So anyway, given the mood of the meeting, I think that by forcing the proposal that I put forward earlier on, it looks like that there is a whip in place and it's likely to fail. I really urge Councillor Kelly to use the time between now and the full budget meeting to properly reflect on the Grantham Highway scheme. I don't want to back anyone into a corner. I realise it's a political decision, possibly a party political decision, but I'm not going to force a vote here that means that you've got to defend it later on. I just urge everyone involved in it, including my colleagues on the committee, to look at this Grantham High Street scheme and say, is it morally right? Is it legally right? Hopefully the information that has been hidden from us about what's been reported to the government will be revealed between now and then. But that's the important part of this meeting. I'm not going to force a vote, though, so I withdraw my proposal.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have another input into the debate?
Yeah, I did. But I'm also happy as the seconder to Councillor Baxter's. But I just will make a point, though, before Councillor Dye gets back in, because I've seen what he's coming with. I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen on the committee, don't ever play football, because the own goals you're letting in is beautiful this morning. Councillor Kelly, if this paper is a marker of your smarter working, then I fear for the businesses and employees of this county. You talk about granularity and detail, but where is it in this paper? And if you think that we are simply going to nod through your cuts, we won't. We will highlight them. We do and did care, understand and scrutinise in granular detail, Councillor Kelly, and that is why we're poring over this flawed budget paper today. It's simply not fit for purpose, Councillor Kelly, and it will not encourage or allow our county's businesses to flourish.
Thank you.
Councillor Corey, all your comments are noted, and we will continue to support businesses in Lincolnshire and those thinking of coming into Lincolnshire to flourish. Granted, the capital loans, the economic investment programme, is not being supported by the council taxpayer through loans for this financial year. That doesn't mean it's turned off for subsequent years, and we will continue to look at alternative financing arrangements to support those projects going forward. And in regards to your previous comment, Councillor Dyer, the business centres, old regime and new regime, were you referring to Conservatives and reform, or were you in regards to corporate landlord and local supplier? Understood, thank you. No problems at all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, can we get some last question, just one question each, because we've really gone over time.
Okay, Councillor Bowles, can I get a question from you, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's not really a question, I guess. It's an observation and a bit of a plea. I've sat here and listened to the debate and what's gone on this morning as not a member of the administration or a member of any former administration. And it's really disappointing what I've witnessed today as an elected member. You know, and I would say any member of the public watching this meeting today would be quite embarrassed and would be asking questions about what the hell's going on. And it all comes back to me, to what Councillor Baxter said and what Councillor Corey has just said. This is a poor, poor paper. I've been on this council for approaching 10 years, sat on various different scrutiny committees. Every year we have these budget papers come, and I've never seen one like this before. You know, it's got no information in it. It's got no evidence within it about the rationale behind any of these decisions. Councillor Condell, you know, has alluded to that on the £20 million withdrawal. There's no explanation there. There's nothing to reassure me about the future proposals. What am I? I'm here to scrutinise. I'm not here to play games about this administration, former administrations. I'm here to scrutinise the decisions that are being made. There is no evidence within this paper to enable me to scrutinise what is going on. That is appalling. And my plea is to whoever, whether it's Councillor Kelly, Councillor Gibson, whoever, we need to sort this out, and we need to get papers brought to the committee that are fit for purpose for us as councillors to scrutinise. We're not sat here as members of the administration. You are here to scrutinise. You're members of a scrutiny committee. And this is just not acceptable. I'm really disappointed, Chairman, that you have not allowed the Chief Executive of a district councillor to speak. Again, I think any inward-looking member of the public would have serious concerns about that. So I'm just really concerned about this whole paper and where we're going. I hear what you've said, you know, about Councillor Dyer. You know, we could share those papers. That kind of information should have been included within the paper. And this is where my concern's coming from. If there's bits of information coming from, you know, district councils, from other people, if there's bits of information coming from different officers, that should all be within the paper so that I'm informed and I can make an informed decision. At present, I can't. And that's, you know, who's pulling the strings here and what is being kept in the dark is my concern. So I think it's a completely flawed paper. I think the process that's gone on today has been embarrassing. And I would encourage, I don't know if it's your responsibility as Deputy Leader, Councillor Gibson, to kind of look at some of this and get a handle on it so that we're not in this position moving forward. I need to have full and proper information in front of me to be able to do my job as a scrutiny councillor, and I haven't got it.
Thank you. And quickly, please, Councillor Dyer, and then we'll
Thank you very much, Chairman. I've only got 3 for property. 2.12.
Can we just have one, please, because we've gone over.
Well, I've
quite
got
a
3
lot.
questions, and they've had hardly any questions, Chairman. It's not my fault that you know this report was so flawed and lacking in detail that we've had to ask basic questions. If the report was done properly in the first place, half of these questions wouldn't need to be asked. 2.12 suggests additional spend will be on tree safety audits and accessibility audits. Can you confirm the cost of this budget and provide examples of what these audits will specifically review, please?
So with regards to the tree safety audits, we are looking at revisiting all the trees that fall within the corporate landlord estate and also the county farms estate. We have a legal obligation to make sure that our trees are safe, that they're in good condition, they're well maintained. It's now, the time has come around again for all those trees to undergo a survey and then the maintenance be taken forward on them. So that's what that is to cover.
And then there was one, I've asked for the budget for that, please, but then also what are we auditing with the accessibility audits as well?
So if you can just give me a moment to get the budget. The accessibility audit I can answer quite quickly. So we have a legal obligation to undertake accessibility audits. They've been included within our new FM contract that started on the 1st of April. And we are now starting to see the results of those. And some of our buildings, for example, this building, do require significant investment to allow us to make them accessible to people who may have a disability or a mobility concern, to basically make them safe and compliant with legislation.
Thank you. I'll give you some time whilst you find the budget, so I appreciate I'll put you on the spot. I mean, my question, is that accessibility based on, for instance, you know, wheelchair access, etc., or are you going down the route of gender-neutral toilets, etc.? But I'll just whilst you're looking for you can come back on that. But then, the next one, 2.16, and we're talking about the rationalisation of property. Councillor Baxter's already asked a similar question on this, but 2.16, it suggests that the council will generate significant cost reductions and capital receipts through property rationalisation. I find that hard to believe that you can put that in this paper, and I appreciate you've got to do it as things currently stand now, but we all know, and you know, it's no secret, this government likes the odd U-turn here or there, something we can all agree on. LGR, if it were to happen, from the summer this year, LCC will be in a position that it won't be able to dispose of significantly large assets. That's my understanding of the LGR process. So I'm just curious to know all of the finances in respect to the disposal of property assets. Most of those probably won't happen if LGR moves ahead on the time frame that the government has indicated. Is that correct? And finally, Chairman will be pleased to know, the report doesn't clearly state, and I appreciate it's been mentioned in a preamble, the additional spend on property assets within the heritage and culture teams. So can an update be provided on what budget is being allocated for the maintenance of Lincoln Castle, what the additional budget is, over how many years, and how that's being funded, please?
Okay, so on the property rationalisation, so there's a number of properties going through at that point of sale right now, which we'll be bringing to the Scrutiny Committee and keep you fully up to date and progress on that. And then at the point we know the outcome of LGR, could understand the future implications of that. Some of those assets may vary, some of them can be linked to county farms and such. So we'll look to bring that into this Scrutiny Committee for review going forward. With regards to the point on the castle repairs and maintenance, was that to bring that forward to this Scrutiny Committee or an overview at this point?
An overview at this point.
I'll just hand over to colleagues in finance who've got the details on that.
Yeah, sorry, I can't use the microphone. So the capital programme investment does include 1.9 million, and it was the feature of the Children's and Culture Committee one day last week for the phase 1 of the repair. This will then be followed with a revenue planned maintenance programme of the 5 million for 27-28 and 28-29. Again, referring to my comments at the beginning of the meeting, because of the strategic decision, it is in the Culture and Children's Committee and went to that conversation on Friday, and we'll again be at the OSMB on Thursday of this week. Happy to point colleagues in the direction through the notes to the paper that was last Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. I think,
Chairman, you'll be pleased to know I am at OSMB on Thursday, so I will ask the question there. But can you just provide more detail, please, on that 1.9 million, what works will be carried out? And then hopefully Marie's got an answer to the questions I asked earlier.
So the decision for the committee last Friday was, is there the need to invest in the asset and the castle asset? There has been no decision yet on how that 1.9 million will be spent in terms of the physical, what will be used. That's the budget being built in.
So and this is the problem we're going to come further on to in the meeting, where the Property Scrutiny Committee, you've said there's a £1.9 million allocation for property budget, but we can't tell you because it's going to another committee. So just agree to the 1.9 million, and we won't even tell you what it's being spent on. I can't understand, Chairman, how we're expected to approve this report today when finance or property officers are unable to say where they're going to actually spend that money. And this is the flawed system that is the scrutiny arrangements at this council.
thank you.
Was the 1.9 million for short-term repairs within 2 years? Is that what I heard? And then there was an allocated 5 million for years after? Is that right?
Yeah, so the full decision will come back through the committee. At the moment, what we've got is the forecast costs of 26, 27, and then the 5 million in the future years. The full decision-making process that actually enables that procurement to take place will come back through the committees. This is the allocation based on the estimates at this point in time, and therefore the budget is discussing the strategic need over the other elements, and then as we get into, yes, there is that need to do, the actual spend against that will come back through the usual decision-making process of the council. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that, oh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I can provide a bit more detail on what that 1.9 will be spent on. So we are in the process of determining the works that are required, but in high-level terms, it is around focusing on urgent safety, critical and structural works to the Observatory Tower and Lucy Tower, repairs to missing stonework and the internal walls, and structural repairs to the wall walks. So in general terms, that's what the 1.9 is being spent on.
Thanks. Councillor Baxter, quickly, please.
I haven't had Marie respond to my other question. Sorry, I'll forget if I don't mention it now.
Sorry, just to come back. So yeah, so the tree safety allocation is 141,000, and the additional revenue budget for accessibility audit outputs, so remedial actions that we need to take, is 75,000. And in answer, I don't know what the outcomes are because it'll be unique to each building following the audit. So it could be signage, or it could be mechanical lifting, it could be a variety of different things.
And then, sorry, my other question, just what sort of accessibility are we talking about?
We're talking accessibility for people with disabilities, so to enable them to move around our buildings, to make sure that we're compliant to the Equality Act. So, yeah.
Being in compliance with the Equality Act could mean things like gender-neutral toilets, etc. as well. So is that being audited as well?
It's accessibility, so it's the access in and out, the access and egress of a property or moving around it.
Thanks. Councillor Baxter, quickly, please.
Thank you. I just got a bit worried about the tree safety issue. Surely that's an ongoing year on year. Surely the council would be reviewing the compliance with tree safety legislation all the time as a percentage of trees. I mean, County Farms is huge. How is it suddenly an additional cost?
So the cost has been being met through the repairs and maintenance revenue lines on our budget, which is taking a huge amount of money away from what we can spend on our actual properties. So every year we're having to ring fence money to be able to address the trees. This is to give them their own allocation that will allow us to continue with our maintenance activities on the property so that they don't fall further into a backlog maintenance position.
Thank you. I think that brings an end to the debate. Thank you all for your comments.
Chairman, I have a point of order. Thank you. You stopped me speaking twice this morning on the grounds that I'm not a member of the council of the committee. I'm a member of the council. May I gently remind you of the constitution of this committee and all committees in this council. Under Rule 426(21), attendance at meetings. Any councillor may attend any meeting of the executive, committees and subcommittees. That councillor may speak with the consent, which will usually be given. Can you hear me, Chairman? Yeah, which will usually be given by the chairman of the meeting. Now, I accept that you said to me, I cannot speak because I'm not a member of the committee. But this rule in the Constitution explicitly gives why a member of the committee can speak. So I appreciate that you have discretion, and I would ask you to allow me to speak.
Thank you, and I'm going to be unusual and not allow that. Thank you.
You're not going to allow it? Well, I think in reasonable, because the Constitution says that discretion is usually given.
We're not doing well for time right now, I don't think there's any
I'm asking you what the reason is. I'm asking you what the reason is why you're not prepared to follow the Constitution.
And onto the proposal.
But it would be usual to give a reason, and it says that you usually would give a reason. You're not given a reason other than I'm not a member of the committee.
I just gave you a reason. I said we're over time. With more than 43 minutes over time, and if I allow everybody through the door, we're never going to leave this meeting.
Well, there aren't people. Well, there was a chief executive. I've been a member of council
bringing
for
this to a close,
30 years, and I'm astonished.
Councillor Dilks, please.
That you want to scrutinise something.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you carry on.
Well, I'm happy to leave if that's what you're asking. But
okay.
I am astonished
if you're going to carry on,
Councillor
Dilks, please leave. Councillor Dilks, please leave.
Okay, thank you very much. You don't
look like you're leaving, Councillor Dilks.
I thought you believed. I thought we all believe.
Councillor Dilks, I will listen to you outside, and I will hear everything you have to say. No, you know what I mean. I understand.
You have opportunity at OSMD, Councillor Dilks.
No point of order. At this point, you can say that the amount of time that's elapsed is a reason not to allow Councillor Dilks to speak. But earlier on, you refused him. What was your reason for refusing him the ability to speak?
The same reason.
What, time?
I knew how long this was going to take, and I was right.
How did you know how long it was going to take? You're supposed to be managing the meeting. I think shutting down free speech in this chamber is, I mean, it's an affront to everything that you lot stand for.
He's got the opportunity
completely
at
shutting
OSMB,
down
he's
free
got the
speech.
opportunity on Friday. This is not shutting down free speech. It is not. Moving on.
Chairman, can I formally request a recorded vote?
Can I get some order in the chamber, please? We're moving on to the proposal. Recorded vote. Do we have 3 hands? Yes. Okay, recorded vote. I move that the committee supports the recommendations to the executive, and I ask that our comments captured by the scrutiny officer be shared with the executive for its consideration ahead of its decision. Seconded by Councillor Corey, so on to the vote. Oh no, that's the recorded vote, okay. Do we have a seconder, sorry? Yeah, a seconder for the proposal in the paper.
I'm not seconding this.
Yeah,
No.
you seconded the recorded vote. I've made a mistake.
Yeah,
I'm asking for a seconder for the Councillor Robinson. All in favour?
Formally request a recorded vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is on the recommendation proposed and seconded by Councillor Sam French and Councillor Ruben Robinson. And I'll go, as before, similar way of going again. Chairman and Vice Chairman, the recommendation of the report. Councillor Sam French.
Yes.
Councillor Ruben Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Rundell's left the room. Councillor Baxter.
Sorry, yes.
No, it's Councillor Baxter. Sorry, we're getting the vote for Councillor Baxter. Sorry.
Never seen such a shambles. No.
Councillor Bowles. Councillor Corey. Councillor Condell.
Yes.
Councillor Dyer. No. Councillor East.
Yes.
Councillor Hastings.
Yes.
Councillor Woodruff. That's 6 votes in favour, 4 votes against. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. At this time, I propose we take a 5 to 10 minute comfort break. Be back at 12,
point of
please.
order, Chairman. You've just expelled a member from the chamber because we don't have time to take his, I would assume, very pertinent points. Yet now we're proposing a 10-minute recess.
It's in the...
We don't need it.
No, it's in the agenda. It's because we've gone over time that we're taking it now.
But you've just said there's no time for somebody to ask questions, yet you're going to let us have a 10-minute break. Do you not see where we're coming from, how bad this looks? That you're stopping members from speaking because we don't have time.
Break.
I quote, we don't have time, yet now we're going to stop for 10
The
minutes.
comfort break should have been at 11:35, and we're now at
If you can't see it,
11:49,
Chairman, we're wasting our breaths. But this is appalling. And I've said it again.
Opinion.
Councillor Gibson, I urge you to get a grip of this. This is poor in its highest form.
I totally agree with you, actually. Absolutely, totally agree with you. A lot of stuff that's been said in here this morning has been disgraceful. And the words used and the manner in which they've been put across is not becoming of this council. I can absolutely agree with you. I will take it on board, your points, because you put them across in a manner that's trying to be helpful. If the paper isn't up to standard, I will go away and I will compare it to previous years, and if it's different, I'll be asking the questions why. I totally get that this is not acceptable, but I tell you what, it's not from this side, not totally from this side. There has been some comments and some words used this morning that are disgraceful. If people want to come here and want to speak, there is a manner in which they do it. There is a time frame in which they should employ, and that is supposed to be followed. If that is followed, I'm sure the chair will fully agree with that and put people forward. But we need to take the heat out of the room It's not been helpful at all this morning. A critical friend is what the opposition is supposed to be. The word friend is definitely not in there. I take your words on board, Councillor Bowles, and I will be looking.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Comfort break. just waiting for a few of us, but we may as well get started. Did Alistair? Okay. Okay, on to item 6, Coastal Car Park Strategy. The scrutiny report can be found on pages 25 to 32 of the agenda pack. The report invites the committee to comment on the Coastal Car Park Strategy. As per the actions required, the views and comments of this committee will be shared with the Chief Officer, who is due to consider the various potential revisions to the existing scheme. The report will be presented by Chris Miller, Head of Environment. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, nearly good afternoon, councillors. So, I'll take the report as read, but I'll just run through some brief highlights for you. So, we reintroduced charging to the 6 sites outlined in the report in the Coastal Country Park area back in 2022, following much discussion, and that was following on from a set of bylaws that we had operating across those 6 sites, which unfortunately were largely unsuccessful and ineffective in managing some of the undesirable and inappropriate behaviours and site usage we found at these locations. So by introducing a charging and enforcement regime, we were able to manage that a lot better to the satisfaction of the local communities who were being plagued by this inappropriate behaviour, fly tipping, human waste left behind overnight from camping, and so on. And largely that's worked really well in managing that. We see far fewer incidents now. We work quite closely with the police, and they've seen a decline in some of the inappropriate overnight usage as well, because we're able to actually enforce that better than we could under the bylaws regime. It was always the intention, following the implementation of the charging, to review that after a 5-year, or coming into the 5th season. We obviously can't apply an incremental inflationary rate every year, because it'd be going up by small amounts and you'd be having to change your signage boards all the time. So it makes sense to do it over a longer period and just readjust to that. So you'll see in the report the proposals there for the modest increase in charges, just slightly increasing them to cover that. But in one instance, we're also increasing the amount of hours you can stay for, the slight increase for the up to 3 hours section. You'll see from in the report there is a table outlining the incomes and the expenditures, and the fact that it does create as a small surplus, which is then reinvested back into the Coastal Country Park area where we can, in terms of managing the sites, and investment in mainly the natural environment and the habitats in and there, working with the Wildlife Trust and the National Trust, who now have a site at Sandylands in slap bang in that area. But also across the wider natural environment remit to help us bid in for grant funds from government to help match fund. So, for example, the work we're doing with the Woodland Trust and some of our newer projects for the routes of Casteven and so on. It just helps us being able to deliver those services across natural environment. You'll also see in the report there's a brief mention about the potential for winter charging. Because this has never been intended to be punitive for the local populations who utilise these areas. We've not had winter charging between November and Good Friday every year, so it's free to use all year round, all across that period, and the charges only come in across the busier high seasons. We also try and avoid, we don't charge before 10 a.m. and we don't charge after 5 p.m. to allow local usage pre and post work to take place free of charge as well. And then we can obviously, post 10 p.m, we then introduce our enforcement in terms of no overnight stays. And the final part I'll just draw your attention to is that back in 2024, a working group of the previous Environment and Economy Scrutiny Committee undertook a review of motorhome usage across the county as the potential for looking at these sites, amongst others, and promoting motorhome usage and the investment into the economy that might bring. The determination at that time with these sites being remote weren't particularly appropriate for that kind of change, because it would be difficult to manage, difficult to put in the services we would require to make those viable. So thank you, Chairman. That is the report, but happy to take questions.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
Councillor Condell, please start off with.
Thank you very much for the report. I'm interested in the national parking platform that you are talking about. Is that something that is just being investigated at this point in time, or is it something that we are moving to? And if we're moving it to that, is there a bigger cost going to be incurred on that for us?
It's a very small cost and would be covered in terms of the site fees as we have them now anyway. So the platform provides better opportunity for the visitor to engage with the parking payment system. So rather than just using the AppCoa, which is our current agent, using their pay-by-phone system, you'll be allowed to use the other various platforms as well. It all goes to a single entity and then the money is divided out from there. So it just provides better choice. So if you haven't got the AppCoa one downloaded, but you have one of the others, you can use that instead. And yes, we are looking at implementing it for the next season.
Thank you. Just following up on that, we'll still be keeping the other app going as well. Is that, I understand from what you said.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So the AppCoa app will still be there. They are still our lead partner. But it will, if you visit the site and you don't happen to have the app, rather than having to download that before you pay, you can use one of the other apps you might already have on your phone.
And that
to pay
cost
for that.
will be cut. Well, it should be covered in the 47 roughly that we're getting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Dorrie, please.
Thank you. And a compliment. Thank you, Chris, for such a detailed report. For say it's just £120,000 a year we're talking about, you provide a lot of detail, and many of the questions I would have asked, I haven't. And one of the questions I had was about why such a large increase. You call it modest, but you've explained it in your preamble that you've just taken inflation over 5 years. So that's answered that, Chris. So thank you very much for the detail. Just 2 points. Well, 3 actually. First of all, I think it was one of the flaws of the system was the app, because the phone signal out there isn't excellent. And if you've got the app, you can get it to work. But if you're having to download the app whilst you're there, it can be challenging. So anything to broaden that out, I think, is welcomed by everybody and members of the public. So that's great. My question to you, and again, you've explained it's over 5 years, so it is modest, taking inflation into account, but what consultation has been done with the coastal business, coastal stakeholders about the proposed rise here? And then finally, just the winter charging regime. You mentioned if anything were to change on that, you'd consult with local stakeholders and you'd come back. Would that be something that would come back to this committee before it were to be implemented? I'd assume the time scales would probably allow for that, because by the time we're in the new financial year, we're in the new charging regime, aren't we? So just they're my points. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll take the first one first. But regarding the consultation, after we've been through this position, yes, that's where we will go next. But obviously, there was no point consulting if it wasn't something we were going to be doing as a council. So yes, we will obviously be making it well known amongst along the coastline, making sure people. It really ties in with the other offers as well, because we're not the only provider in the coastline area. You obviously have the district council, but the other private car parks, the NCPs and so on. So we're just trying to bring ourselves in line with everybody else. Regarding the second one, the report's a slight curiosity, because it's not asking the Scrutiny Committee to make a recommendation for decision, because it's actually a delegated position of the Chief Officer to set fees and charges. This has been brought back here now because it was a commitment made previously to the old environment and economy scrutiny, that we would look at it as a review for 5 years as to whether or not we carried on with charges. We are looking at doing that with the slight increase. So whether or not we have to bring a paper back to look at winter charging, because it could still be a delegated, that's still a delegated position. But I'm sure if we are providing information, that's easy enough.
I think, Chair, my only bit of feedback is I think it's welcome that it comes to this committee, because it's, just lets us know and we're able to ask you a question. I suppose my kickback to that would be, if you'd be able to share with members of the committee the responses to the consultation, and then we maybe, Chairman, if there is, a lot of uproar on the coast about it, then we could request it comes to committee. But if it's not an issue, then if there's no objections, then it probably doesn't need to come to committee. So I suppose that might be an alternative. Chris, if you'd be happy to share the outcome of that, assuming that this goes ahead with committee, so that we're all in the loop. And then see you in 5 years' time.
Not a problem at all, thank you.
Councillor Bowles, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I've got no real problems with this paper. Seems perfectly fine to me, and now Chris has explained the increase. Again, I've got no issues with that. I've just got a couple of basic questions, I guess, really, just for a bit of insight and my own understanding, really, more than anything. In terms of the PNCs, over the course of the 3 years, they've dropped from 1,200 to 500. Can we be reassured that that drop is down to people now realising that there's charges in place and it's not down to any lack of enforcement or lack of activity by enforcement officers that we might see in other places? Second question is, do we benchmark these costs against other coastal areas so that we know we're in line or cheaper or whatever than anywhere else? And then I did have a third one that's just gone straight out of my head. No, it's gone. Just go with those two.
I'll take the second one first, Councillor Bowles. So yes, we do benchmark along, as I said before, amongst the local providers along that coastline. Every county, every council, who operates car parks will do things possibly slightly differently, depending on the situational circumstances of those sites and geographies. But we do look to the other providers along the Lincolnshire coastline. With regards to the PCN incomes, speaking with the enforcement agency, because they're seeing far greater levels of compliance. Now that they've bedded in, people have got used to the idea a bit more, that it's something they're going to have to do. We don't have so many problems, certainly don't get the reports we did. As Councillor Dyer referenced earlier, when they were initially brought in, there was quite a lot of complaints. We had issues with the app. We've put in 2 machines now, so you've got a choice in the 2 major sites at Huttoft and Anderby Creek of using payment by card. We don't do cash because it's a remote site, that wouldn't be viable. But we don't get those sort of complaints. So we're getting a lot more compliance because people are able to make the payments more easily. There is a slight reduction in the amount of enforcement that we're doing now, because you've got to try and strike the balance between how much you do and the cost of that for the returns that you would get on it in terms of the PCNs. And because we're seeing more compliance, we've actually dackered back a little bit on the enforcement. If we see it going the other way, there's nothing to stop us having more patrols.
Do you get less antisocial behaviour in the winter months compared to the summer months?
Yeah, you certainly get fewer overnight stayers and people, careful how I choose my words, undertaking undesirable activity in these sites in the cold.
Was there ever a time when this car park was free and you have data regarding the amount it costs the council for an average year for the amount of, policing and waste disposal, etc.?
I haven't got that detail, I'm afraid, but anecdotally, certainly the issues, certainly for Huttoft Parish Council and the Huttoft Car Terrace were, it was weekly we were getting complaints about human waste mainly, and there is a cost obviously to tidying that, but it's also the reputational damage that does to a site that's branded with LCC on it, and that we're, the accusation that we're not managing it properly for the benefit of the people who live closest to it. So there is that element of it. The antisocial behaviour, it has diminished. We work quite closely with both Huttoft and Anderby Parish Councils as the 2 major sites. And we work with the local populations there, and they help report things into us, and we react to that. We go and provide presentations about how we've been doing through the year and so on. So it's working quite well within the local community on this basis. Both those sites used to have charges back in the 80s, but that was when you had a person stood in a sentry box taking money in a bucket, which wasn't necessarily a viable way of proceeding. It was felt actually more cost effective to stop that.
And a better police service as well.
Well, who knows? We found that wasn't economically viable, and that stopped us, I think it was about the mid-80s. But then with the increase in particularly the motorhome usage and people being able to camp overnight more readily, more investment in that kind of activity. We were seeing much more increases in antisocial behaviour and inappropriate parking. So, for example, parking side onto the beach, taking up 4 or 5 spots, and then not moving for 3 nights, 4 days. We're taking up a lot of room and making it difficult to manoeuvre around the site. And by introducing the charging regime, we're able to manage that more effectively because the bylaws wouldn't cover it.
It's a shame certain people have to ruin it for the people, because there are plenty of people who would use that, but may not be able to afford £5 to park for a few hours. Councillor East, please.
Thank you, Chris, for the report. Quite comprehensive. Just really looking at some of the big money in this is, enforcement costs and that. Are we looking, or is the contractor looking to utilise, AMPR technology or this kind of thing? Because it simplifies things a lot. You don't need machinery and that kind of thing. It's quite a simple process.
Okay, so as a local authority, we're not allowed to use ANPR for enforcement. That's a government position, so we can't do that on any of the car parks that we have as a local authority for enforcement purposes. So that takes that out altogether. It is computer based, so it is just being able to run the registration plates through the handheld devices that the enforcement officers have. So it's quite a quick and easy way of managing it. But yeah, the actual infrastructure of having a camera and ANPR we're not allowed to do. Also, I would probably point to the fact that when we had height barriers managing the site, they lasted less than 48 hours. So anything of that kind of infrastructure would probably be vandalised very quickly.
Is that the same with district cameras as well? Are they not allowed to use the systems?
That is my understanding, yes.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm shocked that Morrison's and Asda and everyone else can use ANPR, but local authorities can't. This just seems crazy. But we don't make the rules for that here. You've said in paragraph 3, the view of the local member has been sought. There's 2 local members. Could you please tell me what Councillor Brooks and Councillor Beecham said?
They both read the report and approved the contents thereof. They were happy with the changes we were making.
Okay, Councillor Condall, please.
So only commenting again on the cost. It's gone up for the hour from £1 to £1.50, and though it's not a huge amount, it is 50% increase. And is a bit above it, quite a bit above inflation over those 4 to 5 years. So have you looked at it being less, or is there any reason you just settled on?
Not especially. It was more just a little bit of future proofing. So obviously you're not looking at this 5 years, you're looking at the next 5 years. So you might not need to put it up in 5 years' time. We might not need to put it up again from the increment. So it's a bit of future proofing involved in that, I guess. Yes, it is it's an obviously round figure for a start as well, and understandable by the public in terms of the costs involved. But then, £1.20 would do the same, I guess. But the proposal was £1.50 to maximise the values of the incomes against the enforcement.
There are no more speakers? I would like to say that I understand the exercise has been done before, trying to basically make it free for residents all year round, but the economics of it kind of made it not financially viable. I would like it noted that I would support some sort of system which makes it free all year round for residents, which I think has been the intention, but it's because it's not possible. We just said when people don't use it, which is winter, no tourists really come, we'll just make it free in winter. I'm sure maybe technology has advanced a little bit. I can't remember how long ago it was that exercise was done, but with the app and things, whether residents could get some sort of pass built into that, or something like that, I think would be great for the residents.
There is already a reduced rate seasonal pass for people who can demonstrate they live within the local area. Trying to make it free for everyone though is quite difficult, because you've got to, where do you draw your line as the boundary in terms of when do you charge and when do you not charge in an area like that, and then managing that as well could be a considerable cost against what we're looking to do here. But we will keep that under review, Councillor French, absolutely, and we'll continue to look at it. We look at it. We have a session in the autumn as officers. We sit down and we look at the next year and see where we are and whether or not there's things we can do to improve the situation for as many people as we can.
Thank you. If there's no more speakers, then I will bring the debate to a close and move forward to the proposal. I move that the committee supports the recommendations to the executive and endorses the report considered by the Chief Officer, and I ask that our comments captured by Scrutiny Officer be shared with the Chief Officer for information. Is there any dissent? There is none, so it is agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item. Is a dissent? Yeah. Moving on to item 7, scrutiny of property matters. This scrutiny report was circulated on the 22nd of January as a supplementary report. The item invites the committee to consider and comment on the report submitted by Councillor Tom Dyer and is relevant to reaffirming that all matters relating to the scrutiny of property service would be, in the first instance, considered by this committee. As per our actions, these are to note the content of the report from Councillor Dyer and to consider whether we as a committee wish to recommend to full council that the Grove Scrutiny Committee should be the primary committee in relation to the scrutiny of all property matters, or should we wish to recommend to full council any other options in relation to the scrutiny of property matters. The report will be introduced by Nigel West, Head of Democratic Services and the Statutory Scrutiny Officer, and then we will move on to Councillor Tom Dyer, who will present the report he submitted. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll take the report as read and simply highlight some of the key points. Councillor Dyer has submitted a report in accordance with paragraph 7A of the Overview and Scrutiny Procedure Rules in the Constitution. And in his report, Councillor Dyer asks this committee to confirm that all matters relating to the scrutiny of property services should in the first instance be considered by this committee. Prior to the annual general meeting of Council in May of 2025, the scrutiny of property matters was a matter for the Council's Overview and Scrutiny Management Board. And there were occasions when service-specific issues were considered by the service scrutiny committees. For instance, in the relationship to schools, went to children's, and waste recycling sites went to environment, for instance. There have also been times when cross-cutting issues have, when they've been discussed, that members of the other scrutiny committee are invited to debate the item at that committee, so that everybody gets an opportunity to scrutinise it. At the AGM in May, the Council agreed to move the scrutiny of property items under the remit of the Growth Scrutiny Committee, and Councillor Dyer's report seeks confirmation from the committee that all property matters should be considered here. This committee doesn't make those decisions, but it can make recommendations to the decision makers, in this case full council, who would need to look at the terms of reference of a committee. In paragraph 1.8 of my report, I point out that we did approach the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny for initial view on good practice in this area, and I've listed a few of the options there covered in paragraphs 1.9 and 1.10. So going back to the actions required, Chairman, the committee is asked to note the contents of the report from Councillor Dyer, consider whether it wishes to recommend to full council that the Growth Scrutiny Committee should be the primary committee in relation to property matters, and whether it wishes to recommend any of the other options in the paper to full council. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Dyer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I appreciate I am the paying opposition Tory councillor and you'll probably all shoot it down. However, I'm going to have my day in Rome, and I'll put it on the table as to why I've requested this that come forward. So we've all sat here now for a few months, and there's been a few items that have come to this committee, and we've asked whether they can come here, and then there's been some ping pong between democratic services and officers and executive councillors on where things go. And I just don't quite think that that's a sustainable way to run the scrutiny of the council. I just think we need to have something in black and white in the Constitution that makes clear where property scrutiny matters go, okay? So if you don't agree with me today, that's absolutely fine. I wish you would, but at least it's very clear, and then it shuts down this argument forevermore. So first of all, thank you, Nigel. I appreciate I submitted this probably a little bit too close to the deadline that you'd like, but thank you for bringing this forward to committee. Following the introduction of the new scrutiny arrangements after the AGM. The growth scrutiny has become responsible for the scrutiny of property services. Nigel's provided the background within his comments. So the responsibility, Chairman, is very clear, and it's set out in the council constitution, and it was agreed by full council that this committee is responsible for the scrutiny of property. However, there remains a lack of clarity on where property-related scrutiny matters still take place. So too often, in my mind, decisions are effectively left to officers and executive members, and perhaps you as chairman, on where it might or might not be appropriate for things to go. A recent example is the castle that went to culture, children's and culture last week. We're asking questions about it today, and they're just saying, oh, well, it was at culture last week. So that's a recent example, but we could talk about schools, we could talk about fire stations, the list goes on. So I'm not shy of making political points, as you know, but I don't believe there's any political play here. I just think it's an issue in the Constitution that needs to be cleared up. So my proposal, and I've reflected on the report, your report, Nigel, that you've provided. My proposal would be actually that's set out in paragraph 1.1 that Nigel has provided. But I take issue, Chairman, and I'm not questioning you or any other chairman of the council. I just take issue with 1.9, which is where it'd be left for the chairman to decide. I quite like the proposal where it states that all property scrutiny matters are considered by this committee, as it is in the Constitution, but then taking on board the feedback from Nigel, where there are issues that genuinely are cross-cutting. I'll use culture as an example. Those members could be invited to come to this committee and contribute and speak. And then that way, property matters remain here. Other members of the council can come and contribute, and forevermore it will be very clear where all property matters go, they will come here. But other members of other scrutiny committees, if they have an interest, they're very welcome to be invited along, they're very welcome to contribute. And I think that solves all of the problems forevermore, and it would stop me moaning. I think the approach, it avoids double scrutiny. I know Councillor Gibson, we spoke on the phone, didn't we? And you mentioned double scrutiny. I agree with you. Something going to, the same report going to two different scrutiny committees, it's officer resources as well. So that my proposal would avoid officer scrutiny. Officer double scrutiny. It ensures that the Growth Scrutiny Committee retains the full oversight of property services, and it also provides the constitutional clarity, both not just for members, but also for officers of the council as well. As the Scrutiny Committee responsible for property, I think it's entirely responsible for us, as we have done today, to review and comment on the annual budget and on the annual performance metrics. But without the full oversight of what's going on, the detail of these things, it's simply not possible for the Growth Scrutiny Committee to carry out its role effectively. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but hopefully what I've put forward is you'd agree with, but if you don't, let's just get something agreed so we can all move on.
Councillor Corey.
Thank you. I thank Councillor Dyer for bringing this to the committee. I think it is one of those gaps that this has fallen into, and he just wants to seek clarity on that. It would actually make sense if property matters did come to this committee, because it builds up that body of knowledge, it builds up those skills. Is all property in one place, and because then we'll build up that knowledge. So it's not a party political point. We've had our session this morning. This is a constitutional point, and I hope you see that for constitutional reasons and for continuity reasons, and so everybody knows what they're doing, that property is scrutinised here, unless there is a compelling reason why the opinions of colleagues in other teams, other directorates should have a direct comment to make. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Some other speakers.
Councillor Condell, please.
Thank you very much. And I understand, and I do want it defined as to where the properties sit. However, unlike you, I do think some of these things should be decided in other areas like schools. So we're looking at classrooms and things like that that need developing or repurposing. I would prefer that they looked at that rather than us. Now, if that means that we have to make a decision as to which bits sit in which area, so school works, or as you said before, the refuse sites and places sit in that area, then I think I would prefer that than bringing it all under the one roof.
Okay, Councillor Corey, do you want to respond?
I'm sure Councillor Dyer can answer this for himself, but it's my understanding that if we're not, this committee wouldn't question or scrutinise the rationale. If there's a need for a classroom, an extra classroom, because a settlement is experiencing exponential growth, then, but it's the process of that property development that we're scrutinising, not the rationale whether a settlement, a village, a town is experiencing exponential growth, therefore it needs an extra classroom, because there are people who understand that more than this committee. I take your point, but it's my understanding that that's not the point that Councillor Dyer is trying to make.
Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, just on that, I can see your point, and I think that's probably the point that probably officers have come to, and that's why the system's sort of broken. I suppose my thoughts on that is, one, we're not the decision maker as a committee. That goes to the executive, where they're to scrutinise. But two, I think by having it open for those members to come along, should they wish, that they're very welcome to come and put that point of view forward. And I'd like to think invites could be sent out to members of associated scrutiny committees if this were to happen. But the problem is, when we come to scrutinise the budget, the capital budget for property, for instance, the castle, or the ongoing maintenance of the castle, we're told to, as we were earlier, we were told to scrutinise the budget. But then when we asked the in-depth comments, it was a report that went to another scrutiny committee. So that's the point I'm getting at, is that we are responsible for scrutinising property services, but some of the more contentious matters, which are the large spends, they go elsewhere. So it's just bringing it under this roof and allowing other members to come and contribute to it. But I see your point, and that's the quandary we're at. I just think that this is a cleaner way to clean up the Constitution.
Councillor East.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Dyer. I do see the sort of muddle of all this, but this really comes down to the Chairman's decision, isn't it? Isn't it the Chairman's decision to discuss these matters? Are we not taking that away from these committees? I see the point of scrutiny, but I mean, the discussion about property should lay with the committee that it relates to.
And that's the point I'm making, Councillor East, is that property relates to this committee because it's responsible for scrutinising property. And my problem with the chairman's discretion or other chairman's discretion, it's that when, for instance, you're not going to be on this committee much longer, but if you were to ask for Heckington Windmill for a report to come to this scrutiny committee on that windmill, that's a property matter, isn't it? But someone down the line, Councillor Rees, might say, well, actually, it's a culture matter, and it'll end up going to culture. And it makes our job as a scrutiny committee to request items to come to this committee quite difficult, because we can ask for something to come, it gets put on the report, it goes into the officer chain, and then it ends up going somewhere else. And if you're a member of this committee, Councillor, which I appreciate you're not going to be for much longer, it makes it very difficult for us to pull things in for scrutiny. And I've had it out on the windmills, I've had it out on other things, and it just goes into the ether, as Andrew knows, with some of the emails with ping-pong to each other. So I don't think the chairman discretion thing works because of the reasons I've just set out.
Okay, Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you. Three things. First of all, earlier Councillor Gibson said that the role of opposition is to be the critical friend. I dispute that a little bit. It's the role of scrutiny to be the critical friend, and I think at the moment we've got an imbalance where we're not friendly enough and other scrutineers are not critical enough. Having said that, thank you. Having said that, it seems that I'm trying to understand what's in front of me. It seeks confirmation. So Councillor Dyer's report seeks confirmation that all property matters should be brought to the Growth Committee. So what you appear to be asking for is that the the Constitution is followed and that stuff should be brought here, which at the moment it isn't. I don't know why we have to bring a report to a committee to point out that the Constitution should be followed. I've just looked at a recent agenda of the Culture and Children's Services meeting, and we had a Lincoln Museum redevelopment project update. If that's a report about Lincoln Museum and all the great things they do, then yes, that should be there. But if it's about building a building, then that's a growth and property issue. Further down the agenda, we've got a roof replacement at some school somewhere. Boston Hawthorn Tree Primary School roof replacement. If the all the committees have got limited time, if the education committee or children's services should be concentrating on, are we delivering for our schools? I don't think they should be going on about the procurement of a roof. That's definitely a property matter. And so where we're talking about, are we any good at procuring property, fixing walls, fixing leaks at business centres and so on, that all should be in the same place, in my opinion.
Any more speakers?
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. And yeah, there's obviously a grey area, and there needs to be some clarification and indeed some work to go forward, because it is continual improvement, as we all know. I'm a firm believer of mission command. I believe people should be held accountable and responsible for things within their areas. So let's say the example for schools, for instance. You know, I believe that schools should be responsible for the delivery of all aspects in relation to schools, and the directorate, or who is responsible for that portfolio, should be held accountable for the budget parts also that are attributable to schools. So if there is a line, a top line allocated to infrastructure, so to speak, then when that is broken down and the infrastructure line to support schools, then that should be transferred across to schools, and the director responsible for the schools should then take responsibility for that. In regards to growth, I believe that the growth infrastructure portfolio, i.e. the business centres, etc., and other aspects should be held here so that we scrutinise accordingly. And if ever we get to the point where we are looking at disposal of infrastructure, assets, etc., then we scrutinise those aspects here as well. So that's what I believe, and indeed that is an option to look at going forward, so that, you know, we have the best outcome that is suitable for everybody, but everybody is aware of their responsibilities in regards to that going forward, so we can manage change if change is required accordingly. And if there are budget lines that need to be either amended or reallocated elsewhere going forward, then we have the time to do that. But it's a continual improvement process. But, you know, your comments are noted, so thank you.
I actually agree with Councillor Kelly. The reason that I still believe that what I proposed works, because, and Andrew will be able to correct me, please, if I say something wrong. LCC property sit above all of the other directorates, don't they? So they carry out the function of property, maintenance of property assets for the entirety of LCC. That wasn't the case, was it about 10 or so years ago? It changed, please correct me if I'm wrong, but for instance, children's services once upon a time were responsible, and the executive director for children's services would have been responsible for property within it. So what you've said, Councillor Kelly, is how LCC used to function, I believe. Please correct me in a second. I'll finish my point, but they can tell me I'm right or wrong. But how LCC works now, you have this central property team, and they're responsible for doing all of that. And then that's why I think it should come here. Now, if you, Councillor Kelly, want to go on and change the management of LCC and change the structures, then I'd agree with you. But I'm just putting this forward based on the structures that LCC have. And that's why I believe that what you've proposed wouldn't work with the current management layout of LCC. But please correct me, Andrew, if I'm wrong.
I think 2015 it transferred into corporate property.
Can you tell us why that changed? Obviously, was the way we do it now more efficient than it was back then?
Well, I wasn't in the role in 2015. My understanding was around an amalgamation of resources, bringing professionals together in the council so we could have one review corporately of the council's needs and weren't having that segregated amongst different departments within the council, which allowed us to act more efficiently.
Councillor Kelly.
Sorry, and just to follow on to that as well, you know, obviously it gives greater accountability and it gives the apportionment of that accountability to where it should reside, but also it gives the, you know, the audit scrutiny, etc., something else to be able to look at, and also contracts and such like. They will be able to provide best practice and best prices, etc., to those, you know, to those directorates to ensure that there is a continuity of efficiency and elsewhere going forward as well. So, you know, I think perhaps it was the old regime that was in place, but if it's more efficient and more effective, then it's something that we should look at to potentially revisit.
Councillor Corey, please.
Thank you. I mean, this is, you know, not part of political point, but have we heard it here first that Councillor Kelly is going to change the management structure and that each directorate is going to get its own property management? Because that's actually what it sounds like.
That's not what I said. I said we will look at options and then we will scope those options and review options to come out with the best solution. But from my perspective, you know, as I said, it's from my perspective. I believe that, you know, the director, the director of schools and children's services, etc., should be responsible for schools in its entirety. That includes the maintenance and the costs that are associated with the delivery of those services and the maintenance of those services. Same as heritage, for instance. It makes more sense for heritage items to remain with culture and such like. So it, you know, it just maximises resources, it optimises time as well, because like has been said in the past, we're double scrutinying, so to speak. So, you know, it reduces the requirement for that and it just allocates the responsibilities to where they should reside. So it's an option that we can scope and look at, I suggest.
All right. Are there any more comments on this one? Councillor Condell.
I agree with Councillor Kelly. I think that's what we should be looking at. But there are two options on the table there.
I mean that's fine. I'm not losing any sleep over it. But all I'd make is that Councillor Kelly's proposing like a wholesale structural change at Lincolnshire County Council. That's not going to happen right now. We are in the here and now. You know, we can argue that all day, I'm sure. But we're in the here and now where there's one property team responsible for delivering that service. And I respect everything, virtually everything you said. I'll give myself some scope to disagree at a later date. But we are where we are now, and I respectfully, that's why I wouldn't agree with that. But you know, if you shoot me down, that's fine. But I've had my day. That's fine.
Okay, final point then, Councillor Corey.
Yeah, can I at this point bring in Councillor Gibson, because Councillor Gibson, you've got the property portfolio. You would just have to attend one meeting, this one, rather than having to dip into all those. Do you have an opinion on this? This is, you know, it's going to be making extra or less work for you.
Councillor Gibson.
I'm pretty sure the Scrutiny Committee will be less interested in work for me. I'm sure they're quite happy to keep me entertained and busy. The other scrutiny are looking at the scrutiny from a different angle. They're not looking at the property and whatever else. That comes here. That's what I'm interested in, or within my portfolio. Anything about rationalisation and looking at buildings' futures, that's what I see as my portfolio. We've discussed before that local members should be involved in that, and they are definitely involved in that. They're consulted and spoken to, because that didn't used to happen. So it's something I'm very passionate about to make sure it does happen. I'm aware there are properties out there that are contentious and we need to find an answer to them. There's one in Market Deeping. I've made the phone call to Councillor Baxter to have a meeting. Let's get round the table and discuss it. So I'm conscious that local members need to be involved. I know what my involvement is, and it's not on the running of it or the what's happening within it. It's what's happening with the building or property, where we're going with it, and what the future of it is, which comes here.
Just a final point, 'cause again, I respect what Councillor Gibson has said. All I'd say is the property team only have a finite budget. You know, you can't go spending millions here, there and everywhere. And if we now wanted to look at what is the property's budget for the next year, where are they investing in which properties, well, we'd have to go through the children's scrutiny to have a look at that report. We'd have to go through several different committee reports to look at where they're spending their finite budget. So I respect what you say, Rob, but ultimately the budget, which we scrutinise as well, the scrutiny of that is spread through various scrutiny committees. And that's why I've made the point, bring it here, and then members of the other committees can come, contribute, etc. But I've said enough today. That is it now.
Thank you everyone for your comments. I'll move on to the proposals. I think what I'll do is I'll ask for dissent on the Councillor Dyer's proposal, and then I'll ask for dissent on the other proposal, because it seems there's both sides in the debate. So I move that the committee notes the report submitted by Councillor Dyer and recommends to full council that the Growth Scrutiny Committee should be the primary committee in relation to scrutiny of all property matters. So that's the first one, Councillor Dyer's proposal. Do we have any dissent? Oh, we're going to vote? Okay, all in favour of that one? It's 3 votes, so it's not carried. We will move to... Oh, sorry. Votes against that one? Abstentions? 1 abstention, okay. The vote has not carried. On to the second proposal. Move that the committee notes the report submitted by Councillor Dyer and recommends to full council the alternative option identified in today's debate in relation to the scrutiny of property matters, which was essentially through the chairs and looking at the specific committees for scrutinising where it's relevant. All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Votes carried. Thank you very much. On to item 8. The Growth Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. This is the last item. It's not the last item on today's agenda. Public item on today's agenda, and the report can be found on pages 33 to 38 of the agenda pack. This item enables the committee to comment on the content of its work programme. The report will be presented by Chiara Hatzioanu, the scrutiny officer. Over to you, Chiara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm taking the report as read. As this is a living document, it will be getting developed as we move on in weeks to come. There are months where you can see that the agendas are slimmer or have no items. Please rest assured that we are working together with officers as well as with yourselves in identifying priorities for this committee. So the agendas will be populated in due course. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. I would like to invite members to make any relevant statements. Councillor Robertson, do we have any speakers? No speakers? Okay, then that concludes that debate. Thank you for your questions and comments. Over to the proposal. I move that we receive the report and approve the existing work programme as detailed in pages 33 to 38. Do we have any dissent? None. So it's carried. On to item 9, consideration of exempt information. As the next item on the agenda includes what local government law refers to as exempt information, there is a proposal to exclude members of the public and the press from the meeting for the consideration of this item. I thus move that in accordance with section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and the press be excluded from the meeting for agenda item 11 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act.
Agenda item 10. Sorry, apologies.
Not item 11, it's item 10. Do I have a seconder?
No. Councillor Dyer, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, Chairman, I've emailed the officers who wrote the report. I can understand why we're going into an exempt session now because of how the report's written. But the report could have been written in another way that huge chunks of this could have remained in the public domain. The summary could have been in the public domain. The action required could have probably remained in the public domain and much of the background. So I'm disappointed that this entire report is going out of the public domain. So I will object to it on that basis, but I appreciate why we have to because of the way the report's been written. It's almost like the report was written completely to go into the public domain and not being as transparent as it could have been. So I object.
Thank you. Your point is noted. So we will now, do we have a seconder to move into the exempt? Councillor Condall. So now we will vote those in favour. Those against? Abstentions?
Could I please have my vote against recorded?
Yes, yes. Yes, all three. And any abstentions? Thank you, that is agreed. We will now pause briefly while the streaming is switched off. This public meeting is now adjourned. And I'll just wait for Andrew to confirm.